So let's get going, guys. So last week we had installed all these virtual machines. We went for hypervisor. I'm just going to keep going down to the diagrams. We were talking about what gets installed. Okay, so this was the diagram that we were talking about last week. VMware classes. Okay, that's the diagram. I'll just add a page here extra. And okay, so that's a lot of lines here and there, I'll create a neat diagram as well. But just to have a refresher, that we were just talking about software SAN, and that we're gonna make this first machine as our software SAN machine as well. So there we're gonna install 3 disks, or add 3 disks for the purpose of sharing them over the network. So let me just mute the mic because we are hearing sounds. Right, so what we wanted to achieve by having 3 disks on the first machine, so we could just share each disk to all 3 hypervisors, so one disk attached to 3 hypervisors, second disk attached to 3, and the third disk attached to 3 hypervisor. Class started. Excuse me. So yeah, these 3 disks are supposed to be shared with all 3 hypervisors. And then we talked about all this, that it's the minimum requirement for a professional environment, that the virtual machines are supposed to be creating their virtual disks on a shared disk or LAN based data stores, and not on local disk based data stores. And we talked about all the benefits. So we can vMotion the machines really easy, because the virtual disk doesn't have to move. If virtual disk has to move from one hypervisor to another, or one data store to another, and normally virtual disks are having, in production environment, it would have 100 GB. It would have grown up to 100 GB or 200, 300, 500 GB as well. So if the virtual disk has to be moved, then it would take hours to move it, while vMotion is all about that virtual machine and the memory contents only move from one hypervisor to another, while the virtual machine virtual disk never moves, and the virtual disk is always then connected, because it's the same LAN based data store that the virtual disk was connected to the virtual machine. When a virtual machine moves to the other one, it's the same LAN based data store that is connected to this hypervisor as well. So virtual machine just never loses then the connection or connectivity of the virtual disk. So cutoff does happen when the virtual machine is moving, but that's just in split second. It's just connected from here right away. But the main thing is that the minimum professional environment requirements would be that you would have a software SAN here. Later we're going to talk about vSAN as well. That's a much cheaper solution, and that also offers highly available storage as well. But right now, this was what we were talking about last time, and let's check some other configurations as well. I'm just gonna start the virtual machines. So that was our Windows machine. The rest of them were hypervisors. Excuse me. Okay, so here I'll just go to, this is not, so the server where we will be going for the software SAN configuration, while the 3 hypervisors where we intend to go for further configurations. And what are those further configurations? I'll just grab one more diagram here. So for last few minutes we were talking about the software SAN in last class, and the rest we were talking about actually that the virtual that our data store gets created automatically when a hypervisor is installed on the local disk, and the virtual standard switch gets created automatically when the hypervisor is installed. And the virtual standard switch also had two major components, and that were the port group, as well as sorry, I'm just moving around here and there, but just doing a refresher. The virtual standard switch will have port group and a VM kernel port. So we talked about that in detail as well. If I go to this is the diagram where we were talking about that. The virtual standard switch gets created by default, and there's a port group. The purpose of port group is to let the virtual machines connect to each other and to the outside world, while the purpose of the VM kernel port is to introduce the advanced features networking side of configuration. And advanced features are vMotion and vSAN and fault tolerance and management network. So for those, VM kernel port provides specific network configurations to help them work across the environment, VMware virtualization environment. So that said, let's go ahead with the rest of the steps that we're supposed to take. And I had put some major steps there. Preparation for software SAN. This we are supposed to do, and we'll be connecting our 3 hypervisors to the 3 disks that we are connecting, LON 1, LON 2, LON 3. So this is the configuration we need to do in terms of the software SAN configuration. Before that, if I go, we had already added 8 more NICs, or total 10 NICs we added to Iscsi 2 and Iscsi 3. Why 10 NICs? We talked about that. It's for the advanced features, we're going to go for best practices, where separate switch for each feature, plus 2 network cards per separate new switch, virtual standard switch. Okay, so in networking, we were talking about this. So virtual standard switch, 8 more NICs, we have configured that. Software SAN, we were about to start. So different components are being placed on our environment, and they're going to be then all connected and used ultimately by the Vcsa, Vcenter server, Appliance, the Vcenter that we're going to install. Now let me just grab the diagram, and let's go ahead with the rest of the configuration. So this would be basic diagram. I'll just copy this. So okay, so our 4 machines here, and 1 physical NIC each. In fact, now there are 10 NICs here. I'll just 10 physical NICs here total, and that's the same thing here, 10 physical NICs. And so what are the next steps? Next steps are that we're going to just try to make sure that 3 disks are added there. So first of all, the software SAN configuration, is that up and running? Software SAN configuration, we talked about its benefits already, but before before we deploy the Vcsa, we can just have everything in place. 10 NICs are there. Yes, future you will use that software SAN. Now software SAN, we have a list of steps there, and we're going to just make sure that those steps are implemented. If I go back to the steps there, preparation of SAN. So our software SAN is Windows based. We will deploy it on Win01. Okay, we will be adding 3 disks, 300 GB each, on Win01. So we're going to confirm that. I think we did already do that. If not, then we'll just check it out now. We will format these disks and name them 101, 102, and 103. Once we add 3 disks locally to the Windows machine, they're just simply local disks. You name them LAN 01, 2, 3, that doesn't make them shared disks. Obviously, we're just naming them. But when we install this feature called Iscsi, so Iscsi server, so after installing this feature, we will convert each local disk into a shared disk that will be able to be shared with other hypervisors. So the main feature is the Iscsi feature, and through Iscsi you can just share a local disk to any other machine over the network. The full disk is then shared, and you can see that now. So we will be converting each new disk as an Iscsi disk and make them available for the 2 hypervisors. I said 2 here, but we'll go for 3. E601, 2, and 3. Alright, so we need to get this up and running. Preparation for software SAN. So let's go to Win01, or I'll go to Win01 now, and there I'll be making sure if 3 extra disks, 300 GB each. Now it could be 400 GB, 500 GB, up to you. They're all thin provisioned, so they're not going to take any space on our physical disk, but they will grow up to this size. So I'm going to go to Win01 now and check it out if the 3 disks are there. If they're there, I'm just going to start formatting them one by one and labeling them as these names. So I'll go to Win01, and while I go there, so I'll just start drawing the diagram here, that what's going on, which machine are we doing exactly what. So these are 3 disks we are supposed to have there now. We're gonna install them, format them, add them, format them, and then convert them to Iscsi. Once they're ready, then we need to attach 1 disk to all 3 hypervisors, then 2nd disk, and then 3rd disk to all 3 hypervisors. So the first step, let's check if these disks are there on Win01. So if we go to Win01 here, and I'll just go ahead and send the Control-Alt-Delete. 3 steps. 3. So I'm just going to check on top here where we are supposed to add disks from. I'm going to right click here and go to Settings. I remember the last time we only discussed it, we did not actually do it. So I'm going to go to Win01, and I'm just going to add the 3 disks now. So the local disk is 200 GB, just to have that separation of disks, that okay, the 300 GBs are all being used for software SAN, and the local one is just 200 GB. So just by the size we can also check that which one is for what purpose. So I'm going to go for add button here, and then click the disk and click next. So it's already on the hard disk, and it's asking for SCSI. Yep, that's okay. Next, it's create new virtual disk. Yes, we need new virtual disk. Next. Now I'll just put that 300 GB, and we do know that this is by default thin provisioned, so it's not going to take 300 GB full on our physical disk. And as now, this by default is thin provision, but if we select this option, that's going to make it thick provision, which we will, or I will not do, because then I'll run out of physical disk space for my laptop. So I'll keep it thin provisioned here, that's by default. And store virtual disk as a single file. So multiple files and single files, we talked about that, that the virtual disk will grow up to one single file, or grow up to this whatever size in 4 GB chunks of files, 4 GB, 4 GB, 4 GB, up to, suppose it's 100 GB disk. But I'll just keep it to single file. Some prefer to go for multiple files. It's up to you. So 0 GB single file, and I'm going to click next. External name is this, so no change here. I'm going to click finish. So first disk is added. I'm going to add 2 more disks like this. Y3, it can be 2 as well, or it could be 10 as well, 20, 40, 50, or whatever number you want, but minimum 2. So I'm going to go for add. Again, I'm just going to go for 2 more disks, right, with the same way. Next, Iscsi, next. Suppose you have a laptop that has actually Nvme Disk, then this process doesn't work. Then you have to shut down the machine and then add the Nvme disks. If it's not Nvme, then while the machine is started, you can just add the disks as well. So it's showing Nvme, but I don't think I have that hardware wise. So let's click next. 300 single file, next, finito, and add, and that's the third one. So we're going to talk about some terminology of storage here when we are sharing the disks. I'm going to click next. And so 3 disks are added, 300 GB each, and the size would just tell me that okay, the 200 is the local disk and the others are for the software SAN purpose. I'm just gonna press OK. Now this is just like you've added a disk in a Windows machine that you have to format them. These are just raw disks. You have to go to disk management and simply format them. Later we're gonna convert that. We'll say to SS. Not be hot added. Really? Which one is that? Well, all 3 got added, so I'll just press OK and check it out or not. Okay, parameters while machine is powered on. So it says that I'm not adding the disks while machine is powered on. Somehow I thought my local disk was Iscsi, but it could be Nvme, which is better in speed. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to shut down the machine now and then add these 3 disks. So it's happening to me as well. I have to shut it down for the disk to be added for the Windows machine. And also I'll click the get updates. It's always a good idea to do that. So I'm not gonna actually do that now, but later I'll install all the updates here. I'll just right click and shut down the machine now, and then add these 3 disks. And I'll just okay, so 3 disks are showing here. So, well, they're added. So it was not pressing OK. So this means it wanted me to just shut down. Everything seems to be okay here. So I'll just simply start. And check in disk management if they show up. Apply computers. So guys, well, it's like live configuration we're doing. It's not like sometimes there are training software that actually show an environment where you can't make any mistake, and it's like next, 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 and it's done. That's how it is done. This is live. Any error could come anytime. In last course, what happened was 1 class only. I was really stuck with Vcsa, and it was giving some kind of weird error that I never seen before. And for that, then I had to ask the class, okay, let me troubleshoot that. We are all from IT background. Hopefully we understand that when we're doing live, any error stubborn error could come. Although I do practice this, and like before that, nothing new comes here, no surprises. So, and majority of the courses it just goes smooth, but anytime any software could just come up, okay, I'm not going ahead, so then we have to t-shoot that. Okay, so coming again and again, I should have installed that at any other time. I'll just put it in the background and install it, because right now I'm just adding a disk. That's not a software in an operating system, or like I don't think it's gonna affect this. Well, it's being added to the system, but updates hopefully are not gonna affect this. So I've added the 3 disks. I just need to go there and simply format them. So I'm going to go to Tools on the top right, and then to Computer Management, and I need to go to Disk Management. Yeah, it can affect what I started. Okay, so Disk Management here, and yep, so the 3 disks are there, and all I need to do is, so it shows offline here and unallocated space here. So I'm going to go for, first turn them all 3 online, right click, online, right click, online, right click, online. So then I will be initializing them. So then it will ask for how to partition them. So I'll click initialize and all 3 will show up. So there's a master boot record and a GPT or grid partition table. So MBR is going to support up to 2 terabyte of disks, and GPT supports more than 2 terabyte and bigger, and more number of partitions are supported here. So whichever you choose, it's okay. So on GPT, I'll just keep it like that and press OK. And then unallocated space, I'm going to right click on top of this unallocated space here, and I'm going to go for new simple volume. Next, well, I'll just allocate the whole space, 300 GB. Next, it's going to be E drive letter, so that's okay. And volume label is 101. We're just following a naming convention here, and just simply format it. Finish. So the second and third one, the same thing. So I'll just go ahead, right click here, new simple volume. Next, next, F drive, next, 102, next, and finish. Right click, new simple volume, and next, G drive, .103. Next, and finito. Okay, so once the 3 disks are there, then I'll just go for, so 3 disks are there and they've been formatted. Now the Iscsi has to be service or feature has to be added, and then these need to be converted to Iscsi disks, which means that we can share them over the network to any other disks, any other machines. So that Iscsi feature has to be added. How do we add that? I'm just going to go back, I'll tab, and I'll close this. So the disks are available. If I go to the File Explorer here, the yellow folder, and this PC, so these are the 3 local disks that got added. We need to just convert them to Iscsi disks so they could be shared over the network to the VMware hypervisors. So I'll just go to the File and Storage Services. I'll also click this. I don't need the left side. So File and Storage Services. In the File and Storage Services, there's a Iscsi feature here as well. It's not installed, but we're going to install that. So once I click that, there is that to install Iscsi target server, start the add roles and features wizard. So this wizard will simply install the Iscsi target server. So what is target and what are initiators? We may have discussed that before as well. So I'm just gonna refresh that. For now, I'm installing that Iscsi feature. So as soon as you click that link, it just goes to the exact place where Iscsi feature is, and it selects as well for us that Iscsi target server. So target in storage is that device that offers the disks over the network or offers the LANs, right? So, well, I put it in the diagram as well, but for now, Iscsi target server. Next. Nothing much here. Next, finish. So next, and although we don't need that, I just, as a habit, I just do that. If there's a pending restart, it will restart. Otherwise, it won't. Click install. Wow, it's thinking strange. Doesn't take that much time normally. Well, once we install that now, and let me just check from my previous diagram if this was mentioned. No. Let me go back. Okay, so target, we're gonna use that term now, is I'm gonna be as simple as it gets, that offers the disks over the network, and then there are initiators, right? Initiators are requesters, or requesting the disks over the network. So initiators target would be that device that is offering them the disk over the network, right? So that is the terminology target and initiators. And so initiators in our case are 3. Iscsi 1, 2, 3 are initiators, and Win01 is the target that is offering the storage over the network. So if I go ahead, whoa, serious. Looks like sometimes it just shoots up to the end, and it didn't move. You know what? That update that I was doing, maybe not have updates on me. I should pause it. Can I? Why can't I pause it? Okay, while this is going on, I need to show one more thing here, and that is if I go to Iscsi 1, and this is on 8 GB right now, Iscsi 2 4 GB, and Iscsi 3 4 GB. Okay, so I think we put it on 8 GB because we were installing a virtual machine with an operating system inside, and we wanted that virtual machine to be faster. So otherwise they should be same size. I'll although when we install Vcsa, we have to even increase the size to 10 GB later. So I'm going to log into any one of the hypervisors, and this is F2. Oh, sorry, from here we can log in, or we can remotely connect. The feature that I wanted to show is the Iscsi Initiators feature, right? So what I'm trying to say is that how do the hypervisors request a disk over the network from the Win01, right? That's what I wanted to show. And where is that feature now? Let me just go to the Google Chrome here and try to connect remotely to hypervisor, or I'll just go for restore pages. So yeah, E681 was already there, address cached. So I'm trying to connect to E681 remotely to show that where is that feature in hypervisor that would request LAN over the network. Root and the password small Vcsa 123 large 123. And so there's that data store, and there's more storage here. There are adapters actually, and software Iscsi. So storage, adapters, software Iscsi, and if I click that software Iscsi, and there, it is disabled, so I'll just click enable here, and normally it's supposed to ask for a root, it's supposed to ask the address of the target. So there's the term that I was just explaining, that add static target, which means that device which is offering us disks over the network, or add dynamic target. So this is the area where once we have all the disks converted to Iscsi, and they're ready on their side, the target side, the disks are ready to be offered over the network, then we come here to this place, and then simply add the static target or dynamic target. We could just add more. So I'm just going to explain that as well, that what are static and dynamic targets, and we're going to talk about this. So if I go to the okay, so there is something serious. I'll just close this, but does that really affect? And yeah, my bad here is that I cannot even stop this installation now. Cumulative update 2016 x64 14%. I never did that before.
Can you go to Task Manager and kill the Windows Update client from there?
Oh, good. Thanks. Task Manager.
It's WUALC or something like that.
Okay. Oh. Processes.
If you go back up. Go all the way back up. And then you'll see it right there, down, Windows Module Installer Worker.
Is it?
The one right below it.
Okay. Oh.
Installer Worker.
This one.
Just be warned, that might corrupt something. So it's up to you.
Okay, so no, like you've done that, like it's taking the resources. I can see that.
Well, that's the process. I mean, that's equivalent to hitting cancel, but you know, it might be. I think it's just downloading the update right now. I don't think it's installing. It's preparing to install, so I think it should be
So we
good.
can just stop it, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, you're right. Okay, and you know while it's downloading, so it should not even affect that other one. So I don't know why it's still it was stopped. Yes, you're right. It is downloading, and I just did the end task here there as well. But it's if it was installing, then normally we're not supposed to touch if it's in the middle of an install, but it's preparing to install. What I can do is, yep. I could just sign out and sign in, just to kill all the processes. Sign out or
You can
restart?
put a NAT option also on the Win01, so you won't get internet activity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that would, okay,
Kill the process completely.
internet activity.
Right, when on your EXSI host, you can put a NAT option. You must have you enable NAT, right?
Uh-huh.
That's the reason why it's touching the
That.
services.
That would also kill it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I could just disable the network card
Yeah.
and simply tell it, hey, stop this. Although, okay, done already, but
And we might want to go back in and kill the Windows update process too, not but the other one that was running.
The other
It didn't have
process.
any. Yeah, it didn't have anything going. But if you scroll down,
yeah.
you'll see Windows update.
Yeah, that's what I did not see. In fact, with that exact wording, but or I missed it.
There, Windows update.
Oh man.
Right click, yeah, and pass.
Oh man, thank you. Well, so it's still preparing for. The best thing would be if I could just restart the Windows and it would just simply refresh everything, and it's not that slow as well, because it may or may not kill it, or after some time. But it's the 2 GB RAM I've given here, so normally that SCSI feature just is very small feature. I don't know why it was stuck.
To prevent the same thing from happening,
But it is not even closed the task. Like it has completed this, but it's just giving a close option and nothing is there.
Yeah, so if the processing has stopped, that's it. Just close. Yeah.
Just close?
Yeah.
Okay.
If the processing has stopped, yeah. And it says completed there.
No, when I go back to Iscsi and Server Manager, it's still more to create. It's still more going back to the same option. It's not giving me any.
Oh, yeah. Then stay there, and I'll be showing you what to do. And yes, that's how it is supposed to be. Okay.
Are the updates needed for sure?
Update. Now I'm gonna see that, but I'm not gonna initiate that if it's not. I'm not gonna touch that. I'll touch it in off hours.
You might have to change your Windows update options too, because it looked like it started automatically installing it.
No, I initiated it manually.
Oh, you did? Sorry. Okay.
So
That is still enabled, I think so.
Yeah, so it does. Download updates will initiate at off hours, and it does not automatically start doing that unless I do this myself. So I'll not touch it now, and I'll go to Final Storage Services, Iscsi, and I'll just initiate that process again, and it takes me to that Iscsi target server next, and we can just I'll not go for the restart destination as well because it actually doesn't restart as well, but it just supposed to just install. What? Okay, now we're talking. Okay, so let's close this. It's just done. Succeeded. And now the link has changed. It's to create an Iscsi virtual disk, start the new Iscsi virtual disk. So yes, now it says create an Iscsi virtual disk. So, but if we go back to the diagram here, so we already have a disk that we need to convert to Iscsi to be able to offer it over the network to other machines. So I'll just go ahead and simply click on this, and it's gonna show you. Okay, let me just this screen. Now this screen says here that which one disk you want to convert to Iscsi disk. So obviously I'm not going to touch the C drive. I'll go for E and then later F and then G. So it's a one by one. So first disk you select, then you go ahead with the process of converting it to Iscsi, then the second and the third. So I'll select the E drive here, and I'm going to click next. I have to give it a name, and there's a path that is showing here as well. So it's I will stick to the naming convention here, lon01, logical unit number, or the disk that is being shared over the network. Next, it's asking that, hey, you want to use the full 300 GB? I say yes, I want to use the full 300 GB. Second thing, you want to make it thick provisioned, which Microsoft calls fixed disk, or thin provision, which Microsoft calls dynamically expanding. So we're going to stick to, in the training environment, the dynamically expanding. Thin provision is slow and saves space. Thick provision is faster but takes space. So dynamically expanding, if we select that, yes, then we'll click next. So the terminology that we were talking about, the target. So we need to give a name to this target, which is about to offer 3 disks over the network to the hypervisors. So I'm going to click, well, it's already there, nothing to click here, and well, click next. And the next screen, we're gonna give a name to the target. So over the network, when they are looking for a target, so suppose you can create multiple targets as well. Oh, what does that mean? So suppose target 1, you can just name it anything, right? Target 1 offers 3 disks. You want to put anything in description about this? Maybe target 1 is offering 3 disks. Then you can create with the same procedure, and suppose you added 100 more disks, right? You create target 2 and you add those 100 disks to target 2. So any machine, any hypervisor here which wants to connect through IP or name to this machine can actually select, oh, I want 3 disks or I want 100 disks. Target 2 is offering 100 disks. No, I just want 3 disks. So I'll connect to target 1. So the machine can actually do that too, and you can create targets. And suppose there are 3 disks here, right? Target 1 is created, it's offering disks, and the boss says, hey, that's not enough, can you add 10 more? So you can later add 10 disks to target 1, making it 13 total disks. So whichever machines were connected over the network to target 1 will automatically get 10 more disks added there. They will start seeing those 10 more disks on their side as well, because they are, once they have to make a connection to the target 1, whatever disks are available and whatever can be added in the future will start showing up to them. So we're about to see that anyway. So I'm just going to click next, and now it's saying that click add to specify the Iscsi initiators. So as per the diagram, initiators are those who are requesting the disk. So Vcsa 1, 2, 3 are our initiators. So we just need to tell the target who are the initiators. So the disks will be available to only the initiators added in this list. So not any other machine can simply request and connect to the disk as well. So we have to add it here in the target, then go to the initiator and initiator request from there to be connected to these disks. So I'm going to click add here, and there are many ways to identify those initiators. There's a IQN number, and that's just a storage address that can be grabbed from here as well. Then there are other ways to identify DNS name, which is esxi1.net, netplus.local, or IP address or MAC address. So we're going to go for the easiest one and the fastest one as well, the IP address. I'm going to select specifically IP address here. I have to do that. And then I will put the IP of the first initiator, second initiator, and third initiator. Or suppose there were 200 more hypervisors, so all those, the IP addresses or names of all those as well. There are then some automation features in other third-party software as well that could help you just automate all this. You can add all the IP addresses or names in one file, and it could be grabbed from there as well. So Iscsi1, the IP is 200.2, 200.3, 200.4. Okay. So I'll go back here, 192. So mistakes do happen here as well. 200.2 here. So sometimes students write here 193 and 169. So the disk just doesn't appear on the other side, and then we're wondering what. So we just then come here and check that what was the IP we gave there. Mostly this is a mistake, or by mistake students just put this IQN and put the IP. No, it has to be IP address then if you're putting IP. So I'm going to press OK here. That's the first initiator. So this initiator over the network is now authorized to request this disk, and I'm going to add the others as well. So I'll click add and IP address and 192.168.200.3. OK, and then the other one. So IP address 192.168.200.4. Okay, so the three initiators that are now authorized to request a disk over the network are these. If in future we need to add more, we can add more initiators or hypervisors here, and we can add for them as many more disks as we want. So I'm going to go ahead, and once we have defined this, I'm going to click next. And there is a extra authentication layer, we can say. This is enable CHAP and reverse CHAP. So CHAP is challenge handshake authentication protocol. It's clear text over the network, but this is for the purpose if you are in some insecure environment. Your company compliance policy says no, you have to put all the security configurations that are available there as a company policy, or you just don't trust that environment where you're offering this service. So in that case, you can just put the new usernames and passwords there as well. So when you're offering the disk, this username password will pop up, or when you're requesting from initiator side, this will pop up that put the username password. Sometimes it gets annoying that it just pops up again even if you have put the username passwords already. So okay, sure, here we go. Cool. Okay, so here what I'm trying to say is that it is an extra option. Now we are in our secure environment. In a production environment, you're already secured by many critical apps, like first of all the firewall, and then there are IDPs, IPS and IDS, intrusion prevention systems and intrusion detection systems. Then there are end-to-end encryption software. So all those kind of securities there already, so we don't then need that extra popping up questions for username password again when we're sharing the disks between the target and the initiators. So I'll skip that too, and I'm gonna click next, but we understand the purpose of that. I'll click next. Now for the first disk, what we did was that we had to actually specify our target. We had to give a name to the target, and and then we had to specify the three initiators. So that's only the one time you have to do this. The first time when you're configuring the target and offering the first disk, the next two disks you don't have to define the target and add initiators again. The next two disks can be just directly added to this existing target. So it will be existing for them because we're about to create them, this target. So you'll see that now that the next two disks would be this faster process. And so I'm gonna click create. The first disk will be converted to Iscsi, plus the target is being created now under which the disk will be available. So I'm gonna click create. Okay. It's a bit slow. By this time it's done.
I got a question. Like, this is a virtual environment what you're creating for ourselves, a lab environment. Now, in enterprise architecture, normally a sandbox is connected to a broken switch via HBA cards.
Yes.
How do we do that?
Okay, so that's actually WWN numbers that are connected, but those are actual LUNs that are
Yeah,
connected
yeah,
to.
because you define the zones also on the brokerage switch to
Yes.
which servers to align and all that.
Yeah.
So how does the EXSI host recognize those LANs?
Okay, so I'll be showing that in the storage topic when we are coming there.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
we'll discuss that in detail.
Yeah, no problem.
But you have you have worked on it, or you have that environment already, or
I've worked on it in the past. In my current environment, I don't have access to a sandbox, but in the past, yes, I used to be working on as a what do you call a SAN administrator.
you were working as a SAN
So,
administrator? Okay, but you were
yeah,
not
yeah,
on
yeah.
the VMware side then.
Not on a VMS. I actually just assign lunch to the different virtual environments that are required in the industry and assign different disk pools for different servers.
Okay, so we'll just assign those, and then you would provide the information to the
Yes,
VMware.
yes,
Okay.
yes.
Cool. Okay, so we'll be discussing that, and so guys, here we have added this to. Let me just check the IP, and you should also, when you are doing this, because that could cause. So it's 2, 3, and 4. Okay, so I'm gonna add the other 2 disks as well, right? So I'm gonna go for tasks on the top right and click the new Iscsi virtual disk, and F drive. I'll go for the next drive here and then click next. This is gonna be launch 2. Next. And yeah, full 300 GB we're gonna use up, and dynamically expanding. Next. So now we don't have to create a new target. We can just add this disk to the existing target. So whoever connects to this target gets 3 disks, or whatever number of disks we kept on adding here. The initiator will get that many disks. So I'm gonna click next here and create, and click close. I'll go again, third one, new Iscsi virtual disk. Okay, there are some sounds coming out. Just mute. Okay, here G drive, and I'll click next. Next, and 300. That's it. So we get that. So it's also gonna add to the existing target. Okay, so the 3 disks are added, but they're not connected. The 3 Iscsi disks are added, but they're not connected because we haven't made that connection yet. So what we're gonna do is the target side is done. So if we go back here, okay, that's messy. So here, the target side is ready to offer the disks or launch over the network to LAN 1, 2, 3. We're just trying to give that. So the first one needs to be attached to we can say all 3. Now how I create it so it would not show really messy, but this has to be connected to all 3, right? Why? Because when we create one data store, that data store will appear to all 3. So suppose you connect through to ESXi1 and you create a data store on top of the LAN. So because the same LAN is attached to ESXi2 and same LAN is attached to ESXi3, so that data store will automatically appear to all those. Suppose there were 200 hypervisors and they're all connected to the same LAN, and you create data store on anyone, that one data store will appear on all 200 hypervisors. So you just have to create data store then once only. So that's pretty cool. Let's do that. I'm just gonna try to connect these. In fact, what will happen is that it will connect to all these. So this it will connect to this, it will connect to this, and here as well, and the same for this as well, right? So this and this. Okay, so now these, once these are created, so we will just see that one line appearing here, and a second line appearing here, and third line appearing here. Now this really shows as messy one, and then on top of that later we need to create data stores, right? So data stores on top of that, data stores on top of that. So I'll just quickly put that these are data stores, and we're going to be naming them properly. Where are they coming from? Oops. Okay, and these are trying to keep the diagram clean as well, but it's kind of not possible, I guess. It's gonna get messy, as long as hopefully we're understanding what's going on. So as soon as the LUNs are connected to all three, each LUN connected to all three hypervisors, the data store we're going to create on top of them one by one. So how to connect these this LUN to the initiator 1, initiator 2, initiator 3. So if I go to ESXi1 now, where I was showing you before as well, it's going to then I'll just go ahead. So here I'm on VN01, right? And it shows for now not connected, but once we're done connecting the initiator to the target one, then it should show connected, and it will turn this to the status to connected. So what I need to do is I need to just simply go to the Google, try to remotely connect to the ESXi1, and then ESXi1. Okay, it's going there. Root. Small WC, capital WC, ship 123 without ship 123. I'll connect to the storage, and we were there on data store, and the local disk based data store is this, but we're going to go for adapters, and in the adapters there's a software Iscsi adapter. So there is our storage adapters which are used for connecting us to the over the network disks. But if you have clicked it already, I think I clicked it already. So VMHBA65. Now this is the storage adapter that's for Iscsi software adapter, which means that it can be connected over the Ethernet and can be used in a test environment. So I have selected that or clicked that already. Now was this already showing here, or when I click then it showed here? So I'll connect to ESXi2 quickly, and we'll know that. And storage, if I click there, and adapters, so yeah, it was not there by default, and it's not supposed to be there by default unless you want it to be there. So I'm just gonna click software Iscsi, and I enabled it at, when I was showing you that where's that feature of target, so I had to enable it, and then it was showing there. So in ESXi1 I already had done that, that's why the adapter is showing. But how to really get that software Iscsi adapter showing here? So I'll do it on ESXi2 just to show you, while I was supposed to do that now on ESXi1, but I have done it already. But how to do it? I'm going to click that again, software as Iscsi and enabled. Even if we just click the save configuration now, so although we haven't configured anything inside, but enabling it just shows it there, and this is the adapter which will help us to connect. Now there was an IQ number, that IQN number that was showing there at the start when we were looking for the options of initiators. So IQ number is this one that we could have given copy pasted from here and copy it from here and paste it there, but we went for IP address to identify the hypervisors. So enabled, and I'll click save configuration here for now, although we need to add a target, which I will do first on the E6i 1, then I will do on E6i 2 and 3. So I'll just click save configuration here and refresh. When I refresh now, VMHBA65 or Iscsi software adapter is now showing here as well in E6i 2. So this is how we just added it, just enable it, click it, enable it, and save configuration, right? So that was the way how to add it, but we need actually to see the disks. So I'm going to go back to E6i 1 where I'm supposed to configure it first. Sorry, I'm there, but I need to go to the E6i 1 tab here. I'm remotely connected from Win01 to E6i 1 through this tab. I'm back to E6i 1 remote connection. So here, before I go and define the target or tell the E6i 1 that from which target you're getting 3 disks over the network, before I do that, I will check in the devices section or tab. When I go to devices, I see only 2 storage devices here. So one is the disk on top, one is a CD-ROM, that is virtual CD-ROM that is attached to the virtual machine or the hypervisor, and the other one is just the local disk on top of which the hypervisor is installed. So there are just 2 storage devices. After I am done, and if it works fine, then I should be seeing 3 more disks coming from over the network now. So I'm going to go back to adapters here, and yep.
I'm sorry, can I interrupt you one sec? I don't see the 65 one. Did I miss a step in creating 65 on ESXi01?
65 1.
If you click on adapters,
This one.
the one on the bottom, I don't see that
Okay,
one.
so
Did I miss a step?
Yeah, so see this, and you can follow me now.
Yeah.
There, in fact, I just showed that on Iscsi 2, but if you click this software Iscsi, then click enable, you will see that. Let me just connect quickly to Iscsi 3, and you can do that on Iscsi 1 as well, so it will be clear. And let me just quickly go for Iscsi 3, advanced, proceed. Okay, so I'll put the storage here and adapters. So now I don't see that what you were saying there as VMHBA65. So here, what you need to do is software Iscsi, do that. I'm going to click that. Now this window should open in front of you, and then click the enabled, and it's going to show the whole screen. So that's once it is enabled. For now, let's just save the configuration, but it's going to show up now. So I'm going to click save configuration, and then you have to refresh. In the browser, it's always when we make a change, we need to refresh. As soon as you refresh, you see this. So this is what we're going to do on all 3 hypervisors one by one, but this is the way to do it. I'm going to go back to Iscsi 1 where it is showing to me, and now it's showing to you as well. We need to further configure it because we added this Iscsi software adapter, but it has not connected us to any target yet. And if it had connected us to any target, then our devices area would see 3 more devices as well. For now, it's not seeing because we haven't made the connection yet from hypervisor to the target, initiator to the target. So let's do that. So once we have clicked the save button here, now this is the VMHBA65 adapter, If I go on top of this VMHBA65 adapter and I click on top of this one here, so it just shows you the simple configurations that are there, nothing much, no information, right? So then I will go to storage again. I'll go back to storage again, and I'll go to the top, software Iscsi, and that opens the window again, right? All we need to do is to connect to define the target, like which target is offering us 3 disks and what is the IP of that target that is offering us 3 disks. So we can go to add static target, we can go to add dynamic target. Static target is if you have multiple targets, target 1 3 disks, target 2 20 disks, target 3 50 disks, suppose, or 100 disks. Suppose you have that kind of, we have just one target there, right? So we can go for dynamic target, that whatever target is there, just fetch me the disks. I'm going to click that dynamic target here, and I'm going to click to add address. So what is the IP of the target machine? We know the IP of the target machine, which is 192.168.200.1. So it's a .1 machine. So I'm going to put there 192.168.200.1, right? If there were firewalls, then you have to add this as an exception, 3260 between the initiators and target. This is the port that they communicate through. Now, if the IP here is correct, then click Save Configurations. And the recent task, our best friend here, recent tasks, says rescan all HBAs. Yeah, done. Okay. So this is VMHBA65 and Iscsi software adapter. Through this, we have defined our target. But we're going to click a refresh here. And then we're going to click a rescan here as well. Right? So when we do rescan, you can see that the whole scanning initiates again, and it tries to check that how many disks are attached over the network. So we have gone through that, and we have refreshed and rescan. If we go to the devices, do we see 3 extra disks as well? Well, yeah, now we do. So it's Microsoft Iscsi disk, Iscsi disk, Iscsi disk. And it says normal and degraded. It's just being detected right now, and we can just refresh that or rescan that here as well. But the thing is that first of all, they got detected over the network, right? So later we're gonna make use of it. In fact, okay. So let's just try to get these 3 extra MSFT, and MSFT disks, which are 299, 299, 299, which is, well, 300 GB, right? Disks that we had added. So we added these disks here in E6i 1. Now let's go to the other tabs, right? So this is E6i 1. I need to go to E6i 2 now. I'll open in Google Chrome another tab, and I'm going to just go for ESXi02 or http://ESXi02. I need to do the same step on E6i 2. I need to do the same step on E6i 3 as well. So I'm inside E6i 2, and I intend to do all those same steps again to detect those disks here as well. I'm going to click storage here. So I'll select this software Iscsi. I'm going to click on top of that as well. And if it's not enabled, go ahead and click enabled. Once it is enabled, then we go down to the dynamic target, and we just need to define the IP of the target, which is 192.168.200.1. So I'll click that, 192.168.200.1, and that's it. So I'm gonna click the save configuration here as well, and refresh, rescan both. First I click refresh, then I click rescan, and if I go down here to the recent tasks, then it is doing a rescan. Then I go to devices if I see more than 2 devices. So I do see that. MSFT, it's 299, 299. Okay. Same thing on the third one. So ESXi 03. So here I'll click storage, and also I'm going to click software SCSI here as well. Go ahead and click the software SCSI, and just go for enable it. Once it is fully enabled, just go down and do the same thing and add dynamic target. I'll just click the add dynamic target here and go for 192.168.200.1. Save configuration. First refresh, then rescan, or just rescan also should work. Rescan is happening here. And the devices, yes. So the 3 ones are attached to the 3 hypervisors. If I go back to the diagram, so this is how it's appearing here, that LUN 1 is attached to all 3 hypervisors, LUN 2 is attached to all 3 hypervisors, LUN 3 is attached to all 3 hypervisors. And we need to create data stores on top of that, because when we are ready to create virtual machines, so without data stores we won't be able to use, or virtual machines won't be able to see the LUNs or storage there that are available for them if data store is not there. So Vmfs formatted data stores need to be created there. There is NFS formatted data stores that you can create as well, like on a Linux shared folder. Also, you can create a data store. So that is NFS or network file system formatted. But yeah, so main thing is Vmfs formatted data stores have to be there. So that's our next stage. And when we are creating data stores now, we need to give them careful naming conventions. We can't just give data store 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? So the naming convention could be that suppose it's SRV1, or just not to make it longer. So S1 would be server 1, or it's Win01, right? So it's W1 is, so this is a source where the disks are coming from, and the second thing would be the data store, so DS0 and LUN 0. So why I'm putting data store 0, it's a data store 1, we can put 1, 2, 3, 4, but normally LUN's numbering start from 0. They start from LUN 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? So just you can give data store as 1, up to you, but I'm just putting it as the number of LUN. So I would say that data store W1 DS0 is actually on top of LUN 0. And if we go this way, so the naming convention then becomes, so it's data store 1 is on LUN 1, and data store 2, okay, no space, wow, okay, and data store 2 is on LUN 2. So just for the LUN numbering, we can also put here this. Right. So so we can just give a proper naming convention here. I'm going to go ahead and go to the hypervisors. Not hypervisors. Yeah, remotely we are connected to hypervisors. Now this you can see that without Vcsa or Vcenter server appliance, the central management software, we have to go one by one to each hypervisor and do this. If Vcsa is there, then obviously then we can do it centrally from there. So in Iscsi 1, I'm in storage and the LUNs have been added, right? In Iscsi 1, I'm in storage and there's a data stores here, adapters here, devices here, persistent memory here. So if you go to data stores here, now since we have the devices on top of which we can create data stores, so I'm going to go for storage and data stores, and I'm going to click new data store here and create a new Vmfs data store. Yes, although we can create on any Linux shared as well, mount NFS data store. So Vmfs data store, right? And does it detect any of the LUNs? Yes, it does. So if I click next after this, so it does detect that. And we had thought about naming convention. You can also have your own naming convention as well, but it's coming from W1 or Win01, and we can just call it DS0 because of LUN numbering here, which is actually not showing in the tables. But once you see all that in Vcenter, you will see that LUNs are starting from 0. So DS0, LUN 0, and click next. It doesn't have to be that, I'm just putting it like that. You can just put any other type of naming convention you want. So let me just go back 1 second. So I gave this name, right? I have to select, I'll just expand that so it's just like this, and so you have to select any one LUN here. Normally the okay, so one column normally shows what the numbering of LUN as well, but I'm just going to select the top LUN here and just call it LUN 0. So you have to select that too as well after giving the name, and I'm going to click next. So select partitioning. You want to use the whole of the LUN, or you want to use some of it. So there's a use full disk, or suppose you go to custom. We're going to go for full disk, but suppose you go for custom, then you have this here showing there. If I click here, then you can just choose that, oh, I want to use just 147 GB, or I want to use full, up to 27 GB, right? And free space would be 32 GB. So it's up to us that how do you want to use that. I'm going to go back to use full disk, and I'll click next. And well, that's it. I'm just going to click finish. The entire contents of this disk are about to be raised and replaced with the specified configuration. Are you sure? Yeah. Okay, so I'm just going to press yes. So this data store has been created, and so we created it from Iscsi 1 hypervisor, but it should appear in Iscsi 2 in the storage section. It should appear in Iscsi 3 storage section as well, because the same LUN on top of which we created that data store, that same LUN is attached to Iscsi 2 and Iscsi 3 as well. So so Iscsi 1, I do see this already, W1 DS0 LUN 0. So I'm gonna go to Iscsi 2 and check if that same data store is showing already now here as well. So I'm on Iscsi 2, I'm on storage here, and on the right side I see data stores. So I'm just going to click that, and I don't see here, so I'm just going to have to do a refresh of the browser. Oh yeah, refresh this one. And we're expecting, okay, yeah, sorry. So let's go to adapters, right? In the adapters, so browser based obviously it's not going to show because we have to do the refresh and rescan here. So first I'm going to just only refresh, and I'm going to check here if anything appeared. Then I'm going to go for adapters and rescan. After rescan, yeah, we can also refresh. So and well, it doesn't appear, so I'll just refresh again. You know what, if we select this device and then refresh and rescan, then it could happen. So it's still not coming, right? I'm going to go to adapters and select this adapter, right? I'm going to select this line. I'm not clicking on top of this. I'm only selecting the line here, and then I'll just rescan. I'm selecting this, hey, just work on this adapter and please rescan for me. And this is done here. Then I'll keep it selected and refresh. So when I go there, it's supposed to show. Okay, well, it's stubbornly not showing there. I'm going to go to virtual machine and storage. Really? Don't make me restart. I don't want to restart, but anyway. So I'm going to go on devices and check that if devices are showing. Yes, they are showing fine. So it might show up after some time, but we just have to create once only the data store, and the same one is connected to all three hypervisors, so the one data store should be appearing here on the other side as well. We'll give it a little time.
Amir, there's a data store browser that can't work.
Data store browser takes us inside a data store. So if I click that,
Oh yeah.
so
It'll take us inside the data store, which is there. Okay, I got it.
but your idea is good. You know why? It shows here in data store browser actually the other data store as well, which is not showing here. But
I can't see mine.
oh, when you do the same?
Yeah.
Oh, and yeah, it's supposed to pop up at any time, and it's a bit different in every machine. I don't know why. It just appears right away for some, and for some it's after some time it appears. Well, we have done all the same steps, but it does show me here, and that's even weirder that it better show here where it's supposed to. I'll select this again, rescan. I'm just selecting this line, or yeah, so rescan is happening in the task, recent tasks. Otherwise, we're gonna go for the third one and just check it out there as well, while this one thinks it over, that should I show them or should I not show them. Okay, I'll go to the Iscsi 3 here, and data store adapters first of all. Rescan. I'm rescanning this adapter, then I'm going for 64, which actually has nothing to do with this, and I'm gonna go for VHB1, and this is what we call a desperate step to just see the result right now, otherwise it will appear anyway. And then refresh the whole window, and refresh is not even showing here. The last resort, I'm gonna quickly just test by so Iscsi 3, right? So I'm just gonna quickly right click here and restart guest, so we could just get the result faster, just to make sure that all the services are in sync with each other, synchronized. I'm just I initiated a restart for this just to quickly see the result. Otherwise, we'll go for the Vcsa deployment, and we're gonna check it out later as well. So I'm able to see that in the data store browser, but not in the actual data store window.
Okay, mine showed up on one of the servers.
So it's a matter of time and rescan, refresh. That's great. I'll check it out by this time. Slide 2. Really refresh the browser as well. Sometimes sign out, sign in also works, but yeah, we don't have to really see it right away. Oh, there you go. So after rescan and refresh, this is Iscsi2. This was not being restarted. I just did a browser-based refresh as well. So browsers, now everything is browser-based. The cloud courses also Azure, AWS, Google Cloud, Office 365, right? So browser really plays tricks on us. So it's showing now on Iscsi2. Iscsi3, I just had to do the browser refresh after doing those rescans. It would have shown here as well, but I went for it. So let me just check if Iscsi3 is back up. It's still coming back. So that was the one data store 300 GB, right? And if we go ahead, okay, so this is the one. These are the diagrams I was using. Okay, so I think it's already going to be. So first thing was that configure software SAN and then once configured, then install Vcsa. Now that takes a long time. It's a big software, and it has to be carefully started. And so we're going to discuss in detail. And once it is created, then we're going to try to configure from Vcsa the whole environment and try to understand each and every step and feature. So install Vcsa, and there. So on Win01, attach the Vcsa7 ISO to the DVD, and then open the DVD and open the installation file. Go through the wizard carefully. Also create an A record of the Vcsa machine name and IP. Whoa. An IP, and launch the installation. Now even before that, I'll choose, okay, we already chosen E6i1 will be our hypervisor that will be hosting the Vcsa virtual machine. It could be any other hypervisor. So E6i1, so on ESXi1, make sure the RAM, processor, and disk are fulfilling the prerequisites of the Vcsa7, right? So minimum 10 GB RAM and minimum 175 GB hard disk and minimum 2 processors. So that's the requirement. Obviously that means we need to increase the Iscsi 1 RAM even to a bit more higher capacity. So on Iscsi 1, shut it down and change the configurations. Shut it down and, well, make sure the RAM, processor, and disk are fulfilling the prerequisites of the Vcsa7. Okay, so we need to make sure that this is happening. I'm gonna go back and first check if the data store 1 is showing on all the other hypervisors, and then we're gonna come back to this install Vcsa. First of all, Iscsi 3 was starting. It has started now, and I'm going to go to Win01 from where I'm remotely connected to Iscsi 3. So this is the Iscsi 3 tab, Iscsi 2 tab, Iscsi 1 tab. Iscsi 3, I'm just going to refresh this. And go inside again. Yeah, it just shows it right away. The data store. So we create data store in one of this, and then Iscsi 2 also shows that, and Iscsi 1, I'll refresh it. It was already showing that. Yeah. So one data store is showing, but remember that we have actually 3 devices, right? In 3 LANs coming from over the network. One of them is now having a data store, but if I go to the diagram here, we didn't create a data store. So the first one has a data store, but the other data stores are still not created yet on the LANs. Now, why we didn't create that? We can just simply do that right away. I mean, like, it's so easy, but we're gonna try to leave it for the Vcsa. From within the Vcsa, I wanted to show you as well that how different it is in Vcsa to do the same thing, which is that to create the data stores. So now what's the plan here? Now this is kind of a messy diagram, and let me just make it a little cleaner, neat diagram. So I'll just grab one more. Okay, so one data store got created. We get it. Okay, so that's where the original ones are living, and we have. So I'll try to create like this. You know, I should have I'll try to create the diagram where switch. I'll just put it down here. Just second and third. So the 3 hypervisors are there, and 3 LANs are there, and the first one has a data store already created here. So we need to just remember that hypervisor 1, 2, 3, and 3 all are connected to the same LAN 01, and the data store that is on top of it is also connected, right? So now this seems a nicer diagram, so I'll just use it in future as well. I'll keep this for future references. Okay, so we just created the data store on top of that. Let's go ahead. What's the plan then? The plan is, so this is the W1DS0 LAN 0, right? And this, we'll just keep that naming in front so we would always remember what is what. 101, and in fact this is now the plan is this. We're going to launch or deploy Vcsa, okay, and the plan is we're going to attach the Vcsa ISO to the Win01 DVD ISO, Vcsa7 ISO, and attach to the DVD. Then we're gonna launch that setup. It's when the wizard starts, it's going to actually ask that which hypervisor you want to create it in. We're gonna say, okay, it's E6i1 that we want to create this virtual machine. So it will then start deploying the virtual machine on this hypervisor, but obviously it's going to ask that which data store you want to create this virtual machine on. So we're going to go for the only data store that we have, the LUN based data store. We also have a local disk based data store, but obviously it's not recommended to create any virtual machine there, so we're going to go for the only data store that we have created, the LUN based data store. So this is the Vcsa VM, and this is the vdisk, virtual disk of this VM, and that's what we plan to do. So this virtual disk of a Vcsa Vcenter server appliance, it needs to be on top of storage that fulfills its prerequisites. And well, in case of the storage, at least we know that we're fulfilling it because it's 300 GB. It's already 300 GB. The LUN is 300 GB, so it's much more than the 175 GB or 200 GB requirement. So I'll just like that. And when it comes to processor, that it should be providing two processors, the hypervisor on top of which it is Vcsa being installed, and then comes the RAM. That's where we need to make sure that it is at least 12 GB. If you have a lot of RAM, yeah, go ahead, give it more. Vcsa will eat up whatever you give it. So you give it 120 GB RAM, so that's going to be really good. But the thing is that the more RAM, the better performance, obviously. I am going to go for 10 GB, in fact, the RAM for that, right? And so the next step would be this, that we're going to shut down E6i1. We're going to make sure that the RAM is changed, because that can only change when we shut down the machine. You can give 12 GB. In fact, I'll just give 12 GB as well. One more thing is that in fact, a better plan, see this, if we Vcsa VM will install on ESXi01. Okay, we understand that. How about temporarily let's shut down ESXi2 and ESXi3. Why? They're not being used in the process of installation of Vcsa. Okay, still, why? Then let's temporarily increase the RAM of E6i1 to 18 GB or 24 GB. So you have 32 GB RAM or more, so you can go for 24 GB. I have total 24 GB RAM, so I'm going to go for 18 GB. So I will grab as much RAM as possible to speed up the installation of Vcsa, and ESXi2, ESXi3 will be shut down for that duration while Vcsa is being deployed on ESXi1. And once it is fully installed, then we can properly, and we are normally properly connected to this, then we can try to actually shut down, we can just shut down ESXi1 again. We're gonna put its RAM down to 12 GB, and we're gonna turn on the rest of the hypervisors as well, right? So this plan is better because if we keep it 12, that's gonna take much longer time than 45 minutes for it to get deployed. So how about we temporarily just, boost up the RAM and shut down ESXi2 and 3. So it's gonna install within 45 minutes, hopefully. So let's do this. I'm going to just write it down. So ESXi1 we have to shut down anyway to change the RAM, but also temporarily shut down. Let's do that. ESXi2 and 3 as well. And change the RAM of ESXi01 to, in my case, 18 GB. And in your case, you can go for 24 GB safely because you got 32 GB. So, okay. Let's do this now. And obviously, all this time we need Win01. So Win01 must not be touched at all. It should stay up because that's where we're doing everything, and it has the infrastructure role of DNS and DHCP as well. So I'm going to go ahead and shut down. I'm going to do ESXi3. There's F12. We can connect to F12 and then shut it down, or within the training environment we can go right click and power and go shut down guest like this as well, and shut down. So I'm going to go for ESXi2, right click, power, and shut down. Well, I do have to shut down ESXi1 as well, but then I'll power it on. So for now, ESXi1 shut down. So ESXi2, 1, 3, 1, 2, 3 are all shut down. I'll keep the 2 and 3 stay shut, while I'll go for ESXi1 and change its RAM now temporarily to 18 GB. And only because I have 24 GB RAM total, and you guys safely go for 24 GB or 26 GB if you want. What is it? 18. So 18 GB RAM. If I click anywhere else, 18.4. 2 processors, good. 200 GB. Well, this is the local disk. We're not using that to deploy. We're not deploying on top of this disk. The Vcsa we're deploying on the LAN-based disk. So ESXi1, 18 GB or 18.4. Processor 2. Well, local disk, we're not counting it. It's supposed to be for the hypervisor, so it's good. So once ESXi1 is loaded and ready for the Vcenter server app appliance, I'm going to power it on. Okay, and Win01, let me just check the RAM. I think I gave it 2 GB. Yeah, oh, 4 GB, okay. 4 plus 8, it's 22. And 2 GB for the underlying laptop or desktop to breathe as well. Okay. Well, I'm on Win01. I'll just close this ESXi3 remote tab and ESXi2 remote tab. Now ESXi1 is the actual one that on top of which it's going to be deployed. If I check the DC UI or direct console user interface, well, it hasn't reached there. They're all, only E6i1 is still starting. Others are going to stay shut. Okay, so while it is starting, now I'm gonna go for what are the steps here? E6i1, yeah. So E6i1, shut it down. It should be filling up the requirements. So that I can say, okay, we check this. If I go further, temporarily shut down SSI2 and give the RAM. Okay, this is done as well. And on Win01, attach the VCSA7. So we need to do this. So let's go to the first machine and attach the VCSA ISO to the DVD of this machine, the first machine. I'll go ahead and do that. So Win01. So hopefully everyone has, those who are following have downloaded it. So I'm just going to right click here in Win01 and click settings to go to the DVD and go to browse. So this is the CD DVD here, and I see Windows 2016 ISO image, but I'll click browse here. And I'll go to that disk which is supposed to have my 7.0s. So this one, VCSA 7.0, is what I have here, and I'm going to attach this VMware VCSA 7. I'm going to double click that and make sure that it is attached to the DVD of this first machine, and I'll press OK. Well, it's popping up here as well. I'll just go ahead and in the File Explorer, I'll go to the DVD of the first machine where the disk is there. Okay. Go to the software tab again, because microtrain. Okay, Joseph. Okay, so yeah. So once this is added here, then you can see that there's no setup file right on the root of that DVD, and we just need to go for UI installer. So VCSA UI installer, and then Win32. So path is D drive, VCSA UI installer, and Win32. So when you go inside the DVD for this path, then you see their installer. Okay, so there is that install, upgrade, migrate, restore options. So I'm going to go ahead and obviously we need to install a new Vcenter server. So once we click the install a new Vcenter server, then it goes for different questions there and explanations. Has to be put there. Now I was thinking that if we should take a break and then start that, or we start that, because that's going to be a a long one now, and after that the installation starts then. That's also going to be a long one. So the external platform services controller deployment has been deprecated. We're gonna then be discussing all this as well. So end user license, Vcenter server deployment target, setup server deployment size, data store, network settings. So we need to go through all that. So let's take a break and come back after the break and then start this. So we have to discuss all this and then we will launch the installation, obviously. So that's going to take a long time as well. So okay, I'll just take a break. So Joseph, you have a TeamViewer that I can configure it for you, or which portion? So guys, it's a break for others. I'll just put it here. What time? Okay, 3:56. For 06.16. Okay. 4, 16, yes. 5, 6. Okay. Okay, so I'm receiving some private configuration. Oops, private. Okay. So where are you? And did you do the whole Vcsa configuration? Okay, where do I get full control here? So I could just configure it, otherwise it's even in the break it might not finish. That's a lot of steps. Where's the... Hey, how do I request, Joseph, how do I request full access? I think I'm in remote access. Or is there anything like that? Okay. So Joseph, are you able to hear me? Oh.
I'm here.
Okay. So is did you configure on the server side the SAN?
For my side, I haven't configured it yet.
Did you add the 3 disks? No.
I had to backtrack
Because
because of the Workstation Pro, because the license I'm building out a different from another remote desktop, so that's what I'm having to do right now.
Okay. Oh yeah, you have the 3 disks. Okay, there are 3 disks there. 300 GB each. So Iscsi. Well, it didn't. Wow. Oh, what's this? Okay, this machine. Let me check the view. Oh, okay. So the disks were added, but they were not formatted. What? I'm clicking the tools to open the disk management, but it's not really happening. So Joseph, can you click the tools on the top right? Yeah. Tools, and then go to computer management. Disk management. Yeah. Oh, okay. Press OK here. And well, no, no, no. Cancel. Yeah. So right click, yeah, new simple volume. Next, until you reach the label, and you go for okay. Yeah, LUN 01, LUN 01. Finish, and the same for the other one, LUN 02, LUN 03. Yeah. Okay, so now we can just close this, and then we need to storage, file and storage services on the left side here. Okay, file and storage services. I'll just try to, and in Iscsi here, and to create disk. Okay, so we have formatted the disk, but the disks are not showing here. This means that it needs to be okay. So go for storage again. Okay, now we're good. hopefully your IP addresses are same as ours. So, oops. Oh, I'm trying to put there 192.168.2. Okay, seems to be okay now. So all the storage is there, but data store. Okay, now it's okay. So I'll just share back the screen. Oh, break is over. Alright guys, so let's continue, and I'll just put that. Alright guys, so let's get going. And Hugo, so at the end of the class, just make sure you're here. So I'll try to create that account for you if you don't have it yet. Okay, so oh, I never paused. Serious. So all this was recorded. Pause. Okay, I'll just minimize now. So what we were doing was we wanted to start this wizard. So what I did was we go to the first machine here, Win01. Then I right click here to, what we need to do is we need to connect to the Vcsa7 DVD, and I'll just go to settings, and then we just went for DVD here for this first machine. Then click the browse here, and wherever you downloaded your Vcsa7 ISO, just double click that and attach it. So after attaching the ISO, then we can go for this yellow folder, and we can go to the DVD, and so Vcsa7 has to be attached to the DVD once we're inside. So we need to go inside the Vcsa UI installer, Win32. So the path is dvd vcsa UI installer and Win32. After that, we just double click the installer, and we click install. Now here, the VCSA is about to install. So the first step, yes, the ISO is attached and the wizard has started. Second step is that, or we need to understand that this is a deployment that is going to happen over the network, and the virtual machine will be deployed on whichever hypervisor we want to mention here. So we decided Iscsi 1. We also updated its RAM to 18 GB, or I did that, and as the rest of the requirements should be meeting as well. And during the wizard, you will see those prerequisites again being asked. So once the when we are in the wizard deploying or configuring all the options, so it's going to ask for hypervisor, it's going to ask for the data store, and it's going to check the processor that is available here and RAM that is available here. And also we need to do one more thing, and that is the DNS A record has to be created for this ESXi virtual machine, that is VCSA virtual machine that we're deploying on ESXi. So all this will be asked there. So let's go back to what we were doing. The installer is already started, and for VCSA, and it's saying that this installer allows you to install a Vcenter 7 stage 1. So it's a multi-stage process, stage 1 and stage 2. Stage 1 is deploy Vcenter, and stage 2 is set up Vcenter server. So in stage 2 it will just set it up. And it also says installing the Vcenter server is a two-stage process. The first stage involves deploying a Vcenter server to the target ESXi host or a compute resource in the target Vcenter server. The second stage completes the setup of the deployed Vcenter server. Click next to proceed. Well, let's click next here, and the license agreement, we have to agree to that, and next. So it's asking that which hypervisor you want to deploy your VCSA. So we have our IP address of the ESXi 1 hypervisor, and that is 200.2. So I'll go here. We can give the fully qualified domain name or the IP address as well, 92.168.200.2. And there is HTTPS port 443. So which is obviously good, SSL. Username, now that username is the root, obviously because it's a hypervisor. Hypervisor's username is root, so it needs to know the password of this hypervisor. So the password, well, it's a class password we've been giving, small ABC, capital ABC, shift123, without shift123, or whatever password you have given to the hypervisor 1, you just put it here as well. Okay, so this is the hypervisor information that needs to be given to the VCSA installer. I'm going to click next here, and it's asking, hey, is that really the hypervisor you're connecting to, and is this the SHA-1 thumbprint of the self-signed certificate you have there? So if I go to Iscsi 1 just to show you this, I'll go for FNF2 and log in, small ABC, go to shift123.shift123, and just wanted to show, if I go down here, so you can see on the view support information on the DCUI direct console interface that there's a SSL thumbprint here, E45915, and it ends with 686C EC. So I'll go there, E45915, and ends with 686C AC. So yes, through that self-signed certificate thumbprint, you can also confirm that is the correct hypervisor you're connecting to, and I'll press yes. Okay, so it just asks for the VM name, which is okay, VMware vCenter server, and root password that it is setting here. So the name you can change to any other name as well, but the password, I'll just go for the class password, but you can go for any other complex password. Small WC, capital WC, ship 123, without ship 123. And this password we need to remember if you need to log into the machine, Vcsa. Next. Now it is saying that if you want to deploy, what kind of deployment are you doing, how big it is, how small it is. You can see that deployment size is tiny. So we're going for tiny, which is 2 vCPUs, 12 GB memory, not 10, and storage has to be 400 GB minimum and not 175. So that's what I was saying. I think I mixed it up with 6.7. So then I was thinking that okay, the requirement will come here as well. Now it says 400 GB here, and we have 300 GB, right, on the data store that we need to offer. So we're gonna still give that path and see if it accepts that. Otherwise, I'll show you how to add another LUN that could be 500 GB, and that LUN we can just attach, and then on the top of that LUN we can create data store, and then this VCSA can be on top of that. But we're gonna try to give that 300 GB there. But storage requirement for Vsphere7 is Vcenter 7 is 463, and hosts it can support up to is 10 hosts, and virtual machines it can support up to 100 virtual machines. Then it goes up to small and 4 processors, 19 GB RAM, 520 GB hard disk, 100 hosts it can support, 1000 virtual machines. Medium is 8 vCPUs, 28 GB memory minimum, 748 disk minimum, and 400 hosts and 4000. Then it goes large, 16 vCPUs, 37 GB memory minimum, 113 storage, 1000 hosts it can support. That's a lot. 10,000 virtual machines it can support, and then the extra large is 24 vCPUs for the hardware. Wow. 56 GB memory minimum and 1853 storage, 2000 hosts it can go up to, and 35,000 virtual machines. So that's a huge. We're gonna stick to that first one, and it's the tiny. We are seeing tiny, and then storage size is default, large, extra large, and it says increase storage size if you want a larger VMDK allocated to the seat, which is stats, events, alarms, tasks partition. So anyway, we're good with what we have provided, but let's see if it has a hard stop here, and normally it accepts it. I'm gonna click next here, and now it's saying, hey, okay, where's your data store, and just provide the data store. So it's 300 GB or 299 GB, so we're going to select that, and this is the LUN based data store. Obviously we could have gone for 500 GB data store as well, which is thin provisioned. It's not going to occupy any space, even 600 GB or 800. So but we're going to stick to enable thin disk mode, right? And it says here a thin provisioned disk does not pre-allocate all of the space specified for the disk. It saves space by allocating only blocks backed by physical storage when they are written. So this means in English it means that when you install a software, then it actually occupies the disk space what the software needs. NFS data stores are thin provisioned. So okay, if it is NFS based, so if it is Linux shared folder based data store is there, then they're all already thin provisioned. That's what they're saying. It says that if you have a vSAN cluster, we can use that. No, we're just offering a software SAN here. So once it is selected, I'm going to click, and there is nothing down here. So vSAN is coming later. It uses local disks to create a highly available storage. We're going to do a lab on that. But right now, I'm going to click next. And then it asks for the Vcsa related configuration, and that is FQDN. So it's just asking, hey, you want to give a name to the machine, and what would be the name? We can go for Vcsa at at, why did I add that? Vcsa dot, and what was our domain name that we were sticking to? I'll go to open server search netplus.local. So now this is the name we are providing ourselves right now. The machine doesn't exist yet, but we're giving it a name. So once we are giving a name, obviously we need to create its A record in DNS as well. So first, let's give it a name. So the domain name is this. I'll alt tab it and go to the other screen. Vcsa.netplus.local. And obviously it's a new machine, so you have to give a IP. You have to come up with an IP for that machine. So in our environment, we have gone up to 4 IP addresses. So we can give .5 there. Hopefully 5 was not given to anything else. 192.168. So obviously in production environment, we're not going to go for hopefully. We're going to check it. 2.5. In fact, I'll just open the DNS in the server manager, and I'll go to tools, DNS, and so 1, 2, 3, 4, up to 4 we have, yes, and then 131, and yeah, that's it. So yeah, our IP address is, so 5 is not given to anything, and our DHCP starts from 50, so we're good. Let's see. So if I go back here, so 200.5 is okay, and this is the A record we need to create, vcsa.netplus.local, and the 192.168.200.5. Subnet mask 255.255.255.0. Default gateway 192.168.200.1. DNS 192.168.200.1. So it's a fake default gateway we're using, and DNS obviously that's the original one, that's the one we need. And other than that, it says that it can be accessed Vcenter from HTTP port 80 and HTTPS port 8443 as well, which is okay. So well, this is the information, and we can't go ahead until we have created an A record for this. We need to tell our DNS, hey DNS, we're about to create a new machine, and this is the name and IP of that new machine. So I had already created or opened a DNS here. I'll close it. So go to server manager, and then go to tools, and then go to DNS. So here in forward lookup zone, if I expand, and then netplus.local, if I expand, so I don't see a 200.5 here. So I'm going to go to right click on the domain name, new host A, VCSA, tab 192.168.200.5. Now this is the machine we're about to roll out, and this is the name we came up with, and we want its pointer record in the reverse lookup zone in the DNS to be created automatically, which it will. So that's all we need to put here. The VCS, it just takes that FQDN itself, and the spellings should be correct here as well. It's not case sensitive. I'm going to click add host here, and successfully created. Press OK, and that's it. I'm done. I don't need to create another A record. Then Win01, refresh. So Win01, refresh, right? And there is, I'm going to go for forward lookup zone, netplus.local. Okay, it's showing, and the spellings and IP are correct, right? Okay, not only this, when you make a change in the DNS, okay, first we go to the server name, we refresh a couple of million times, right, server name. Second thing is, we can just go for ipconfig flush DNS and register DNS to just refresh our local DNS cache. And I've opened the command prompt, and I'm just going for ipconfig/flush DNS. Since the command prompt is admin privileged, so I'll go for ipconfig register DNS as well, although flush DNS just, it's okay. Okay, register DNS is also okay, and if there's any error, then it will show it in 15 minutes. That is okay. We don't need to care about that. I'm gonna minimize this. That I've made some DNS changes, and now, guys, there is also this server manager. I'm still there, right? Server manager. So in this server manager, I'm in the local server, and I can see that there's a firewall open. So I'm gonna just turn off this domain firewall profile. I clicked on top of that, then I go to turn Windows firewall on or off. I'm going to click that, and the domain profile, I'm going to turn it off as well and press OK. No unexpected. So, you know, this application is big, and it normally it installs well, but for sometimes it just gives you an error, and then it doesn't install. It stops installation after that. So what happens is that then you can just start the installation again, but just give the new name Vcsa1 and give the other IP 200.6, and you have to create an A record for the new name and new IP as well, Vcsa1 and 200.6, and then refresh, and then start the installation again if that happens. If I go down here to the deploy Vcenter server, right? So it shows here configure network settings, and well, that's what we have given information. So we'll click next now, and ready to complete stage 1. So that's it. Let's click finish, and it's going to start the installation now, and that takes time. So hopefully that this installation goes well. Okay, so while this is going on, okay. So while it is going ahead, we can also talk about the Vcenter server management platform. So there is, let me just put it like that. Yeah, vCenter server acts as a central administration point for Iscsi hosts and virtual machines that are connected in a network. Directs the actions of VMs and hosts, runs on Linux-based appliance. So it's just running on, these are the hypervisors, hypervisor 1, suppose hypervisor 2, hypervisor 3. Then there are VMs, and vCenter server manages them all. So we have talked about that before as well. If we go ahead about vCenter server appliance, vCenter server appliance is pre-packaged Linux-based VM that is optimized for running vCenter server and associated services. Okay, so we talked about that. The vCenter server appliance package contains following software. So it's Photon based, which is part Linux, part VMware programming or code used, and PostgreSQL database, which is a free SQL database that is installed. If it was a Windows-based vCenter, which it is not anymore, so normally they used the Microsoft SQL Express Edition, the free version. Now with Linux-based vCenter, so they're using Oracle free, or Postgre actually. Postgre is its own, so PostgreSQL database. vCenter server services they're using. During deployment, you can select the vCenter server appliance size for your vSphere environment and the storage size for your database requirements. So yeah, if you're a big organization, so you can go for, you already saw that tiny, medium, large, extra large installation. So according to that, we can just get the hardware as well. If we go further here, vCenter server services. So vCenter server services include vCenter server, Vsphere client, vCenter single sign-on, license service, vCenter lookup service, VMware certificate authority, content library, vSphere ESXi dump collector. So these are some of the services. When you deploy vCenter server appliance, all these services are included. So vCenter server just does all those configurations. There's going to be two URLs that you're going to see here. The first URL would be the URL vCenter server management. This URL will be for managing only the Vcsa machine itself, while another URL will be given which actually will let you configure the whole environment, right, of the whole hypervisors and virtual machines and everything. So when we reach the first URL, I'm going to explain again what is that. But you want to manage just the Vcsa itself, because Vcsa is so important, right? Vcsa, because of that, you can configure the whole environment, you can keep an eye on that, you can monitor that, you can troubleshoot that. So there's a separate maintenance and management URL for the Vcsa virtual machine itself. Obviously, you need to maintain that machine. You need to keep an eye on this Vcsa machine as well. If this goes down, you can't centrally control the whole environment. So that's why there's a vCenter server management URL will be shown there during the first stage, at the end of the first stage. So other than that, there are these features. Obviously, when we install, then we're going to go ahead with that. So vCenter server appliance, vCenter server is supported by the vSphere client, the vCenter server database, and manage hosts. So it says here vSphere client is showing here, right? And this is it. If I go, so you can just connect to the HTML5 client, which is a very light client, and all the advanced features are there in the HTML5, and through that you can just connect to the VMware. So this is the Iscsi host hosting vCenter server appliance services, and Photon OS is the OS there, and app vCenter server appliance is this full virtual machine with a data center inside. So the deployment we're doing, this is the full virtual machine here, right? So there's a Photon OS, VMware proprietary OS, the full vCenter application on top of that, and a database is being installed right now in our installation. Once it is done, we're going to connect from a browser, which is the HTML5 client. Now, and then, yeah, you're just going to handle then manage Iscsi host and virtual machine. So you have the two hypervisors already. So that's a hypervisor, and that's a physical server, then the hypervisor here, and these are the virtual machines showing. So, well, this is how the Vcenter server appliance is shown here. This is the virtual machine with a with the database, the OS on top of this, and on top of the OS is database and application. So if we go ahead, so Vcenter single sign-on provides authentication across multiple vSphere components through a secure token mechanism. User logs into the vSphere client. Vcenter single sign-on authenticates credentials against a directory service, for example, Active Directory. So suppose you're connected to, there's a VMware directory service as well, or if your Vcenter is connected to Active Directory, so it can just confirm that user from Active Directory as well. Otherwise, you can create a user inside the Vcenter itself, and Vcenter has its own authentication system as well. A SAML token is sent back to the user's browser. The SAML token is sent to the Vcenter server, and the user is granted access. So the user logs in from the browser from HTML5 client, and then Vcenter single sign-on confirms either from the Active Directory, if it's coming from the Active Directory, or from its own directory service and from its own authentication system, and then confirms that yes, this username, password, credentials are okay, and then it lets you log in to the Vcenter.
Amir, I got a question. What about user level access? Like, is there an option like every person, like some people have extra access, or some so how is the user level access maintained? Through Active Directory or through the Vcenter itself, Vcsa appliance?
Yeah, so the Vcenter has its own access levels, and you can give desktop support, or just virtual machine administrator, or just full hypervisor level, Vcenter level. So there are many levels, and we're gonna check it out as well. But there are many levels within the Vcenter that you can give to the users.
Okay.
So in fact, our first lab, after configuration of the Vcenter and creating some data centers there, and basically configuring the whole thing, then we're going to go for the first lab, how to connect to the Active Directory. And we're going to create one user in Active Directory, actually two types of users. One user will be, suppose he or she is a VMware administrator. The other user will be actually our desktop support. So then we're going to check that how desktop support, what level we can give in VMware, and administrator what level we can give.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, so here about enhanced link mode. With enhanced link mode, you can log into a single instance of Vcenter server and manage the inventories of all the Vcenter systems in the group. So you can add multiple vCenters. Suppose there's a vCenter in Toronto, and there's another vCenter in New York that you've installed as well, vCenter server appliance, and then there's another one you deployed somewhere else as well. Suppose those branches are all big branches. Otherwise, one vCenter is more than enough to handle. We can already see that tiny and then medium, right? So if there are multiple vCenters that you need to manage, vCenter server appliances, in that case, it is called, first of all, enhanced link mode, that you link multiple vCenter servers, and up to 15 vCenter server instances can be linked to in one vCenter single sign-on domain. And enhanced linked mode group can be created only during the deployment of vCenter server appliance. So now you're deploying it. So if you already have a vCenter deployment done somewhere else that you have a connection to, then you can join that existing vCenter single sign-on, or you are, as in our case, we're just installing for the first time. In fact, that option you're about to see now, that are you creating a new single sign-on environment, or you're going to join a vCenter domain. So if you join another one, then it's a enhanced link mode. Iscsi and Vcenter server communication. The Vsphere client communicates directly with Vcenter server. To communicate directly with an Iscsi host, you use VMware host client. So the main thing is that the way we were just connecting now, so this is the Iscsi host, right? And vSphere client and VMware host client. So this is just if you haven't deployed the Vcenter. So there's an agent called VPXD, or agent or a daemon, we can say. Now from on behalf of Vcenter server, VPXD agent talks to an agent that is living inside the hypervisor called VPXA. So VPXA talks to Vcenter agent called VPXD, and VPXA tells this hypervisor that what Vcenter wants you to do. So whatever policies are coming from there, whatever configurations are coming from Vcenter, VPXD communicates that to VPXA that is living inside hypervisor, and VPXA talks to the local hypervisor agent called host D. So this host D is talking on behalf of the hypervisor. VPXA is talking on behalf of the Vcenter to the hypervisor. So, and VPXA is getting all the communications from VPXD agent. So these three agents talk to each other, and through this, Vcenter tells host what to do and what configurations are coming from the Vcenter with the help of these three agents. And host D is, you can directly connect to that agent when we type in the browser VP, that Iscsi01, we type it and press enter, and then we put the root and the password. So we're just talking to that host D agent here, and then host D on behalf of us, our remote connection is telling the host what to do, or the hypervisor what to do. So this is the client to the hypervisor, or Vcenter to hypervisor communication that they're talking about. Let me check. It should not be done that soon, or 81. Okay. Seems like. And normally my machine is the slowest one. So if I go ahead, Vcenter server, yeah.
And the VCSA,
Yeah, sure.
sorry, the VCSA servers, you can have multiple instances, right, in the network, like active and a passive.
Vcenter server can have multiple instances, yes, and that is called native high availability.
Native and a hybrid, yeah, okay.
So we talked about that before, but we're going to be talking in detail later as well. But yeah, that is native high availability, and so we're going to try that stunt, although with 32 GB RAM that would not be possible, but we're going to still give it a shot. So Vcenter server appliance scalability, and that is hosts per Vcenter server instance is 2500, and host just means the hypervisors. The powered on VMs per Vcenter server instance, so 40,000 it can go up to. Now this is the same thing we saw in the wizard as well when we were trying to install that. So how much virtual machines it can handle with the extra large version of the Vcenter server appliance. Registered VMs per Vcenter 45,000, hosts per cluster. So we haven't created the cluster yet, but we will be doing that too once we explore VSS, vMotion, and that distribute switch. So hosts per cluster 64. It goes for, now cluster is just grouping of hypervisors to offer high availability and disaster recovery features. So cluster, like fault tolerance is in the cluster, HA, high availability is in the cluster, and DRS, distributed resource scheduling, is in the cluster. And then VMs per cluster 8,000. So in one cluster you can have 64 hypervisors and 8,000 virtual machines that it can offer high availability to. So if we go ahead, review, and okay, so deploying Vcenter server appliance, that's what we are doing just now, and let's check it out what it has to say. Preparing, so before deploying Vcenter server appliance, you must complete several tasks. Verify that all Vcenter server appliance system requirements are met. Well, yeah. Get the FQDN of the static IP of the host machine on which you install vCenter server. So yes, we got the Iscsi1 host IP, and then ensure that clocks on all VMs in the vSphere network are synchronized. Well, yeah. So yeah, the clocks needs to be, the time has to be correct. Otherwise, it's gonna be an issue. We're gonna check it out. Vcenter Server Appliance native GUI installer. So we went through this, and the GUI installer has several features. With the GUI installer, you can perform an interactive deployment of Vcenter Server Appliance. GUI installer is a native application for Windows, Linux, and Mac OS. And the installer has no dependency on browsers or plugins. That's good. It performs validations and pre-checks during the deployment. Okay, so well, my deployment was about to finish, so let me just, okay, still 97%. Maybe you guys are done, I guess. And so yeah, this is the installation we did. The vCenter Server Appliance installation is a two-stage process. Stage 1, deployment of OVF. Now when we talk about OVF, so Open Virtualization OVF format, yeah, Open Virtualization format. So this is import export format of a virtual machine. We're going to do separate labs on that too, how to import and export virtual machine. And the stage 2 is configuration, which we haven't gone to. The deployment can be fully automated by using JSON templates with the CLI installer on Windows, Linux, and so you can, on a command prompt, you can also go for command-based installation as well. Vcenter Server Appliance installation stage 1. So this is stage 1 that we covered or went for. Stage 1 begins with the UI or user interface. Accept the EULA and end user license agreement. Connect to the target Iscsi host or vCenter server system. Well, we connected to the target Iscsi1. Define the vCenter Server Appliance name and root password. We did that too. Select compute size, storage size, data store location. Done. Define networking settings. Done. Stage 1 continues with the deployment phase. OVF is deployed to the ESXi host. Disks and networking are configured. So this is just exactly what's happening, that the disks and the network configurations are going on right now with the first installation. Stage 2, what will it have? Stage 2 is the configuration phase. Configure time synchronization mode and SSH access. So this is going to be the stage 2. When we reach there, it's going to ask for, hey, are you creating a new SSO domain, or are you joining some other already installed vCenter, right? So in that case, it's going to be enhanced link mode, but we just have one, so we're going to stick to the new SSO domain. And yes, we're going to be giving a domain name just like we do it in Windows. We give a domain name. We're going to give a domain name in VMware as well. So create a vCenter single sign-on domain or join an existing SSO domain. Join the customer experience improvement program. Okay, so well, typical settings here, no big deal. And getting started with vCenter. After you deploy vCenter Server Appliance, use the Vsphere client to log in and manage your. So this is the URL that we need to remember. Well, pretty much it's the machine name, fully qualified domain name or IP address, and it's the small case UI. It's not capital. It is case sensitive. So once you put small case UI, then you get this HTML5 client, which is light. Okay, and then that's how it will look like when we are connecting. So configure vCenter server using the Vsphere client. Using the Vsphere client, you can configure vCenter server, including settings such as licensing, statistics, collection, and logging. Yeah, we're gonna set it up, sure. And it goes on and on, but let me just check it out. Oh, okay, still thinking, 97% here. So let's go ahead and
Are you going to provide this document to us in OneDrive?
yes, I will.
Okay, thank you. Great, thanks.
Okay, so now here, okay, so Vcenter Server Appliance Management Interface, and using the Vcenter Server Appliance Management Interface Whammy, you can configure and monitor your Vcenter Server Appliance instance, and the tasks include monitoring resource usage by the appliance, backing up the appliance. So this is the management interface that we were talking about. This is the only purpose of this one is to manage your own Vcsa and nothing else. But then there will be another URL that will be given to you to manage the whole environment. So that will be separate URL. Just managing the whole Vcsa would be a separate URL that we are about to get now as the installation finishes. So Vcenter Server Appliance multi-homing. So with Vcenter Server Appliance 7.0 multi-homing, you can configure multiple network interface cards to manage network traffic, right? And well, let me escape that. What happened here? So it's for example, Vcenter server high availability requires a second NIC for its private network. Yeah. So multi-homing just means they have two network cards that are taking you to the separate configurations, like separate IP address names and schemes there, right? So yeah, we can add multiple network cards. That's pretty much what it's saying. Oh, we're done. Okay. Stage 1 is done. You have successfully deployed the Vcenter server. To proceed with stage 2 of the deployment process, Vcenter server setup, click continue. If you exit, you can continue with the Vcenter server setup at any time by logging into the Vcenter server management interface. So this is management interface. I would want to copy this URL, although it's Control-C, and I'll just put it in our Vcenter as well. Vcsa deployment stage 1 complete, and whatever name you gave to the machine and the URL, and especially the port 5480 you have to put there to go and configure specifically the Vcsa or manage and maintain right now. So I'm going to click continue here. So we got the URL. My suggestion, if you're there as well, just copy this and save it somewhere and click continue. So it goes for stage 2 now. Okay. So set up Vcenter server. Installing the Vcenter server is a 2-stage process. The first stage has been completed. Click next to proceed to stage 2. Click next. I'm just going to go ahead and the synchronization mode. So first of all, time synchronization and synchronize time with the Iscsi host. So this machine is being deployed, and it's saying that instead of any other NTP device there, network time protocol device, why don't you just Vcsa, why don't you just synchronize your time with the host on top of which you're being deployed there? So well, that's also okay. Otherwise, if we have some NTP server, then we can just mention that too. So I'll keep it like that. And SSH access. So for Vcenter server high availability, enable SSH access. So we're gonna go for high availability or HA feature, obviously. So we'll go for enable secure shell access. I'm gonna click next now. IP address change warning. You're about to modify the IP address of this Vcenter server. You might lose connectivity to a few minutes. Also, you might be redirected to the URL 200.55480. It's okay. It's giving a warning, but it's not an exact IP address change here. It's thinking. It's saying thinking that if there's an IP address change, then so right now SSO configuration. We don't have an existing SSO, or we don't have an existing Vcenter deployment, right? So we're the new deployment, and it's asking for our domain name here, and I will So there's that suggestion here, vsphere.local. So I'm going to go for vsphere.local. And well, we can give any domain name here. That doesn't matter, but obviously not the netplus.local, which we already gave to the domain, Microsoft domain. So here we can just stick to this one, or you can just come up with anything else. So it's something. Single sign-on password, I'll just stick to that class password, small abc, capital ABC, ship123, without ship123, and here as well. Done. Now vsphere.local, the top user account here also is administrator, as it is there in Microsoft domain, the top. So this administrator obviously is the VMware, vSphere, Vcenter administrator. That is the domain controller administrator. We should not be mixing the two. That's why the domain name has to be different. Obviously, the administrator at vsphere.local. This is how we're always going to log in from now on to the Vcsa. And well, that's it. So we just give the username, password. Well, username is already decided for us. The password and the domain name we give here, and click next. And join the customer experience improvement. Well, up to you. You want to keep it checked. Your diagnostic data will be going there to the VMware. Okay, so I'll just click next. Ready to complete. Yeah, the full configuration is there. Let's click finish. Right, you will not be able to pause. Yeah. Okay, so that's going to be now continuing to the final stage. Vcenter server setup is in progress. While this is going on, we can switch back to the slide. Yeah, so demonstration. Yeah, we're having that demonstration right now. We're following all this. And vSphere licensing, so it is talking about licensing vSphere components is a two-step process. Add a license to the Vcenter's license service, assign the license to the Iscsi host, Vcenter server appliance instances, and other vSphere components. So the licenses are provided. Licenses can be purchased. Not provide. You purchase that, and then through Vcenter you provide that license to the hypervisors, the hosts. The license service runs on Vcenter server appliance, and it performs the following functions: provides centralized license management. Obviously, this is a central software, so licensing will be centralized as well. Provides an inventory, of licenses. Manages the license assignments for products such as for products that integrate with vSphere, such as Site Recovery Manager. So suppose you purchase another product separate from the Vcsa and hypervisor. These are the two that you purchase, but then separately you go for some more bigger featured products there from Microsoft, from VMware, not Microsoft. So obviously, where would you put the license for that? You will just put that license in Vcenter as well. That product has to attach to Vcenter, then you have to put the license. So there's a replication appliance that you can purchase as well separately, and its license will also be. So it is the central application for even other products that has to integrate to the Vcenter. And so you must assign a license to Vcenter before its 60-day evaluation. So we have a 60-day trial version, and select menu administration. But you have the keys provided to you for all these software from that official VMware student portal. And you must assign a license to Vcenter. Yeah, so this is where you can just assign the license and license keys. 1 2 3 4 5 5 4 3 2 1 6 7 8 9 0. Okay, anyway, so assigning the license to the Vsphere component, well, yeah, pretty straightforward. You just click assign license, and this is how it is done. Click and so other than that, viewing licensed features, you assign valid license keys to your Iscsi host vCenter server instance using the licensing pane. This pane shows the type of licenses. So you go to licenses. We're gonna visit that too, but for ours it's gonna be for showing this. Hopefully this is not a actual license here. Okay, so adding vSphere licenses, use yeah.
Amir, how is licensing managed by CPU base or core base or host base?
So it's up to 32 cores. It's showing here. So yes, it is core based,
Right.
and so it would be 16 core or 8 core or 32 core. So that's how you can go ahead and purchase. So it will be the price according to that, because from the cores you can decide that, well, suppose you have 80,000 users and thousands of applications and virtual machines, so definitely then you would need more cores. So let's yeah, where were we? Yeah, use a Vsphere client to add Vsphere licenses to Vcenter server and assign a license to Vcenter server. So anyway, obviously we're gonna connect from client to the Vcenter server, and then we will see the Vcenter server and deploy it. Okay, let me just check, where am I now? Okay, we have some time. View license information and license features for Vcenter server or an Iscsi host. Add license keys to the Vcenter server. Guys, also we need to check or keep an eye on the underlying hardware. Obviously, you have given enough space. You may have enough space in your machine, but I'll just open my machine here and just check out. This is D drive, so it shows here 210 GB out of 447. Okay, so we're good, because it really grows fast sometimes, and we can't even imagine. So that it's, if we are about to fill up, obviously we should see that what else other data is there, what other extra machine or test machine we have created, and we could just delete that right away before it affects our installation. So it should not be affecting mid of the installation. That would be the worst time. So then you have to deploy the whole thing again. The good thing here is, suppose it is now affected in stage 2, so you can start from stage 1 now instead of from the beginning. Okay, so we were talking about, then there is managing the Vcenter server inventory, and the objectives here are use the Vsphere client to manage the Vcenter server inventory. We're going to go through all that. When I do click and start explaining, so we pretty much cover a lot of this, so but inventory has create and organize Vcenter server inventory objects, add data center organizational objects to Vcenter, add hosts. So definitely that's what we're planning to do. We're going to add hosts now, recognize how to create custom inventory tags for inventory objects. So there is from the Vsphere client shortcuts page there, you can manage your Vcenter server system inventory, monitor your infrastructure environment, and complete system administration tasks. So this is how it's going to look like when we log in, and we're going to be spending a lot of time here, hosts and clusters, and well, whatever other features we configure, we're going to come back and configure those as well. So if you go ahead, you can use the navigation pane to browse and select objects in the Vcenter server. Okay, yeah, so just navigation pane, right? So there's summary, monitor, configure, permissions, data centers, hosts and clusters, VMs, data stores, networks. We're going to be using a lot of these again and again, so you're going to get used to it once it is deployed. And vCenter server views of host, clusters, VMs, and templates. So host and cluster objects are shown in one view. So there are host. So there's once you create a cluster, so there's a data center that gets created, then a cluster gets created, and then all the virtual machines. So and VM and template objects are displayed in another view. So there is VM and templates that you can see as well. Now this is the host and cluster view. The other one is a VM and template view, and this is the storage view, and this is the networking view, right? So and then it comes the storage inventory view, shows all the details of the data stores and the data center. So these are all the data stores you're going to see. And networking inventory shows you standard switches and distributed switches. So this is their networking. And other than that, because you can view object information and access related objects, monitoring and managing object properties is easy. So yeah, you will see once you click on a virtual machine, so you can just see the summary. Summary would just tell you, the good thing about summary is that it tells you all the errors directly on top here if you're seeing any errors there. Yeah, so these are the hosts that it's showing here in a cluster, and you can see directly some of the errors that are coming. Now obviously this is cluster view that they're showing. When we create a cluster, you will see that firsthand. About data center objects, so when we install a vCenter, first thing we do is we create, well actually we can create a folder as well, but we create data center. Everything, every feature is living inside the data center object. So as soon as we enter our vCenter, we create a data center inside. Then you can create, add host to the data center. Then you see all the virtual machines. You see everything after you create a data center. A virtual data center is a logical organization of all the inventory objects required to complete a fully functional environment for operating VMs. So you can create multiple data centers to organize sets of environments. So data center is for organization as well. Each data center has its own hosts, VMs, templates, data stores, networks. That's pretty much everything, right? So you have to create a data center, then you can add hosts and then control everything. But that's pretty much for organization as well. You have two branches there, and each has its own vCenter, or you just have two branches, but through one data center, through one vCenter, you're controlling Toronto-based virtual machines, as well as suppose there are 5 hypervisors. Iscsi1, Iscsi2 live, Iscsi3, 4, 5 live in Toronto. They are deployed there. And in Los Angeles, you have Iscsi6 up to Iscsi10. And Munich, you have Iscsi11 to Iscsi15. And Paris, you have Iscsi16 to 20. So 5 hypervisors in each branch. So you can create, in all 4 branches, so you can create 4 data centers there. And add the hypervisors according to the data center names. So it's just for organization, but pretty much data center has all the features inside. And organizing inventory objects into folders. Objects in a data center can be placed into folders as well. So you can create folders and subfolders to better organize. So yes, data center has all the features, but folders can be created. So suppose there are 2 branches in North America, US and Canada, right? So you can create a folder called North America, and under that folder you create 2 data centers. So US data center, Canada data center. And then in Europe you have that 5 data centers there, or 5 branches in Europe. So you create a folder first called Europe, and then you can create 5 branch named data centers there. So it's just for further organization. You can put a folder there, and from the folder you can just configure you can just put data centers according to this, or you can just do this as well, that db folder, file and print folder, Intel. Okay, adding a data center and organizational objects to Vcenter server. You can add a data center, a host, a cluster, and folders to Vcenter server. Obviously, yeah, so when you right click, you can just create folders and new data centers. First you install the Vcenter, so the top layer is this, top level is this. When we deploy Vcenter, when we log in first time, this is what we're going to see, and the rest of the stuff will be empty. All under this will be nothing. So we're going to start creating one by one everything. So you can add, you can use folders to group objects of the same type for easier management. So yeah, you can create a folder right under the data center as well, and then add network folder, storage folder, host, and VM. So all these can be added to those folders, just for organization, obviously. Okay, where am I? Ooh, oh, that's gonna take time. 75. And if we go further, adding Iscsi host to Vcenter server, you can add Iscsi host to Vcenter server using the Vsphere client. Okay, obviously you're going to connect from Vsphere client to connect to the Vcenter and then control the whole environment. And creating custom tags for inventory objects. So tags are there to add some information, right? So you can use tags to attach metadata. Metadata is what? It's data about data. So this is all the virtual machines and hosts. This is all data, so you can just put some extra information about that. Tags help make these objects more sortable. So you can search, suppose virtual machine belongs to sales department, you can add a tag there, that department, sales, and manager, John, branch, New York, right? So like these. So you can associate a set of objects of the same type by searching for objectives by a given tag. So you can search for a tag that if the tag says sales, just search that. So with that tag, whatever virtual machines were attached, they will come up as well. You can use tags to group and manage VMs, clusters, and data stores. For example, tag VMs that run production workloads, tag VMs based on their guest operating system, right? Okay, so, and labs, create and manage the Vcenter server inventory, configure Active Directory, joining a domain. Yeah, we're waiting for it, so we could do it. And yeah, they have given some lab related information. We're gonna do a huge amount of stuff here. So configuring Active Directory, yeah, we have Active Directory already in place. We're just waiting for, in fact, where are we? 85%. Okay, not a lot of time left, I guess. Just keep an eye on the underlying hardware as well. And we go for yeah, this was an Vcenter server roles and permissions. So that's where roles and permissions come, and define term permission in the context of Vcenter server. Describe the rules for applying permissions, create a custom role and permission. So about Vcenter server permissions, using the access control system, the Vcenter server administrator can define user privileges to access objects in the inventory. The following concepts are important. What is the concept? Privilege, object, user or group, role, permission. So what is a privilege? An action that can be performed. So object, the target of the action. So object would be user or group, and the privilege would be whatever privilege you want to give. User or group, indication of who can perform the action. Okay. Object could also be a resource as well. Virtual machine, a host. Role, a set of privileges. So when you collect privileges together, a virtual machine can be started, a virtual machine can be restarted, and a virtual machine can be shut down, A VM can be deleted as well, imported and exported. So these are all the privileges. You can collect them into a role. Permission gives one user or group a role set of privileges for the selected object, which could be a virtual machine, a host, or anything. So yep, privileges. A role is a collection of privileges, and the role can be attached to any object, and that is called permission. You're giving permission to someone. About roles, privileges are grouped into roles. Okay. A privilege allows access to a specific task and is grouped with other privileges related to it. Again, the example was that you can create, delete, edit, image profile, rule, host. Roles allow users to perform tasks, and Vcenter server provides a few system roles which you cannot modify. So there are some system roles, just like in Windows you have system roles, that administrator's role, backup operator's role, and then user operators. So VMware also has it. Objects are entities on which actions are performed. Objects include data centers, folders, clusters, hosts, data stores, networks, and virtual machines. So these are all objects. All objects have a permissions tab. So every object has that. The permissions tab shows which user or group and role are associated with the selected object. So all objects are these, and you can just give permission by attaching a role, which is just a collection of privileges. Wow. Okay. So adding permissions to the Vcenter server inventory. So to add a permission, select an object. So what are they selecting? There's a hypervisor that was selected. Select a user or group from a domain. So first hypervisor was selected, Iscsi1. Then permissions was selected for it. Then in the permissions there is a plus sign. And in the plus sign, what do you want to do? So which user you want to select, what role you want to give to that user, right? On that hypervisor. Select a role, propagate the permission to the child objects. On hypervisor, there could be 5, 10 virtual machines, right? So permission would go. So if it's an administrator role for a user only on Iscsi1, so all virtual machines, storage, and networking related to Iscsi1 will be controlled by the administrator role, which was given to whichever user. The roles pane shows which users are assigned the selected role on a particular object. Okay, let me check. The machine stopped whirring. Oh, okay. So it is done, and we're going to continue that as well. But let's try to connect and check it out. Hopefully, those who are following are done as well. So you have successfully set up this vCenter. I need to copy this as well, just URL. So this is the vCenter getting started page. That's what we're gonna connect to, but obviously /UI is the one that is the actual one that you need to connect. So vCenter getting started. Now this is obviously my machine URL, but just giving an idea that this is how it is. And when we click this, then it's gonna ask that hey, you want to connect with UI or not. So now before closing, obviously I will just click directly this. Once we click that, I would want to open it in Google Chrome. Okay, so it says Vcsa.netplus.local and your connection is private, blah blah blah. So it's we didn't purchase a certificate from domain registrar, so it's saying that. So I'm going to click advanced here, go down, and proceed to Vcsa.netplus.local. Now it is saying you want to go to documentation or you want to go to launch the HTML5 client, right? So if we had put here UI small, that would have just opened it right away anyway. So I'm going to click that, launch Vsphere client, and yes, the UI got added, small UI that is. Okay, now if we have given the correct username, username was decided for us, administrator at domain, which is vsphere.local, and the password. So administrator at vsphere.local, and the password small c, capital C, okay, whoa, small c, capital C, shift 123 without shift 123. Okay, administrator at vsphere.local. So we should be able to log in now. Depends on how much RAM that Vcenter is getting, so the response would be better. So we're logging in now. Okay. So we're logged in here, and I'm gonna make a full screen here so we could see everything on your workstation. I'm gonna just click full screen.
Amir,
Just a question.
just a question, a stupid question, but I think so. I'm not sure what is my vSphere local with add rate, whatever it is. How do I verify that?
What is my what?
I'm not sure what I put in the vSphere at after administrator at whatever the local
So that
server
was
name.
the domain.
How do I
Yep.
Yeah. So how do I check that out? I mean, if I can
Yeah, sure.
figure it out for somewhere else.
This administrator at vsphere.local. So if you had given exactly that domain name, so it would be then administrator at vsphere.local.
Yeah, but how do I figure out what name I put it in my setup? I'm not sure.
Really?
That was a stupid.
Hey, yeah, that's an
Just
interesting
give me
question
invalid
actually.
credentials.
Okay, I need to check. Suppose, okay, I understand that. So you're saying that suppose we forgot, then where would the domain name really show? Obviously, I'm logged in, so I was about to say, see, here it shows, but I'm logged in. That's why it should. But if I'm not logged in, oh man. You didn't? You put something else? Like you can try with.
I'm not sure because it's giving me some invalid credentials when I'm putting the username
When
and
you're
the
putting
password.
this at vsphere.local?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It could be a spell missing like this, and that could be millions of combinations there. So.
Okay.
Then I think I have to check the documentation myself as well. That if it is not even deployed, then obviously we need to go to the log files and log files. Let me check it out. So in that machine, locally, okay, that's I'm not inside the machine. I'll just click it. So I'm in that. So normally there are log files that are created in C drive. Basically, if I go to C drive here, there are log files. Normally they're located in the user profile as well. If I go to the administrator. .txt. Now that's a big bet here that there could be thousands of txt files there that got created, and I'm just deployment related information. I remembered that, but I'm forgetting now. Normally the file gets created on the base here, but let me just quickly search it for you. Oh, if I had gone for start VMware *VMware*.txt, then it would have shown me. Okay, while this is going on, installation logs. Cleansing log for Vcenter server appliance. Okay, so there's a. I'll copy this on the Vcenter. So I put that information on the chat, and I'm putting it here as well. On the Windows machine that you use for deploying the Vcenter server appliance, navigate to the log files folder. If you're logged in as administrator, by default it is C users administrator app data local VMware CIP Vcsa installer folder. So this is the path which may have your domain name information right now.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, thanks. I'll just figure it out.
So it's how to access deployment log. That is supposed to have it. For Vcsa installation. Okay, well, right. So here, oh, it did give a lot of VMware related stuff, but that's too generic. So, well, how it looks like from inside is this, and so here, this is the top layer, and as you were seeing in the slide as well, so this is host and clusters, this is VMs and templates, this is storage, and this is the networking, and summary, monitor, configure, permissions, data centers, host and clusters, VMs, data stores, networks. So all if those are added there as well, and that's the VCSA or deployment. If I go to the other link, right, there was another link here as well. So this is the URL that we should always now throughout the course we're going to connect to this vcsa.netplus.local/small but there's another one that's for VCSA management. So I'm going to go ahead and the one that I copied before is vcsa.netplus.local 5480, right? So this is for the VCSA itself. And yeah, so this is going to be root and the class password, because we're just managing the VCSA itself, not the whole environment. So first URL that you need to remember is that ends with /UI and it's :443 port, which if it's 443 then it doesn't even come here. The other one is this vcsa.netplus.local :5480. If you have to put the port 5480, and then it still goes to UI and summary, but it's just the interface of the VCSA management. So summary here for the VCSA machine itself it's showing here CPU, memory, database, storage, swap file are all good.
Okay, domain is showing.
Okay, domain is showing on this single sign-on.
It is showing?
Yeah, the Vsphere local.
Yeah, the Vsphere local. You can see that single sign-on
Yeah.
domain on the right
Oh,
side
yeah.
corner.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. I put something else.
Oh, so it was else? Okay. Cool.
Yeah, I put something else.
Yeah, I put something else. Yeah, it's my mistake.
Oh, but so you were following that, and yes, that was a very simple thing that ran out of my mind as well. I should have just gone here. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, so here, domain is this, and status is running. So, well, the health is good. This means that since this machine is running the whole environment, so we need to make sure this machine is running. So here, if I click monitor, then this machine's own health has to be perfect. So the main categories would be CPU and memory, disks, network, and database. All must be good. And right now I can see CPU has gone down, memory has gone up a little. But this is something that obviously you should put an alert on as well. Access, if you go there to, so access settings, SSH or secure shell login is enabled, DCLI is enabled, and direct console, DCLI, so that's direct command line interface and console command line interface are enabled, and bash shell for all. This is disabled, but you can remotely connect through bash shell, which is just Linux command. You can start giving Linux commands there. Networking, so we have just NIC 0 here, one NIC that we added to this machine, but we can later add multiple NICs as well. And DNS servers, yes, status is up for the NIC, the MAC address is there, and yes, all information is there. FTP disabled, HTTPS and HTTP disabled as well. Firewall, so that is you want to stop, you want to just control the whole traffic from the Vcsa to anything, because it's going to be connecting to hypervisors and then third-party devices as well, devices or appliances we can say. So you need to then you can just go for firewall configurations as well. Also time, it's getting the time. This is a virtual machine, so if I go to the diagram here, this virtual machine is right now on top. This virtual machine files and its virtual disk is on a data store that is on top of a LAN that actually is on server 1. So this virtual machine is running out of the memory of Iscsi 1, while its virtual disk is living on the SAN or LAN, and actual LAN is actually here on Win01, right? So over the network access. But anyway, this is the time zone we're talking about, and it already gets its time from the underlying hypervisor. Services is these are all the services for the Vcenter that are some of them are automatic and healthy and started. So whatever is automatic normally is in the started state, and content library service, automatic, envoy, sidecar proxy. So there are many weird names here as well for a lot of services that are coming here, showing here. So, but anyway, you can just restart whatever feature is not available or frozen. You can just come here and change its status or restart it as well. Update. Now that's a good thing. You can do an update on the Vcenter directly, and available updates are there. So, well, it's going to check it out what updates are available, and it's taking its time for this. And one day, Monday or Sunday, it's gonna show it. So I'm just gonna come back here as well. Administration, so password expires in 90 days. Email for expiration warning unset, but you can just set it that password is about to expire. And then syslogs, so all the prior to setting up the forwarding configuration, remote syslog servers must be configured, and network connection must exist between the Vcenter server and syslog server. So what normally goes on is you configure another server to receive all the log files created here locally over the network to those servers. So those servers are called syslog servers that receive a copy of the logs or save over the network copy of the log files that are forwarded from here. So we can set up a syslog server that can to which we can forward all the log files. Suppose this machine goes down, the log files that were being sent the last time could be referred to what happened really. And then there is a backup here. So when you're backing up this Vcsa configuration here, so where do you want to back it up and how do you want to back it up? FTPS, HTTPS, SFTP, FTP, NFS, SMB, NFS Linux, and SMB Windows, and HTTP. So whatever link you provide, then you can just keep on sending or backing up the configuration of the Vcsa machine itself. So that's the URL that controls this Vcsa itself, and the other one controls the whole environment. And so in this environment, obviously we're gonna try to start setting up everything like data centers. If I right click on this Vcsa here, so there's that new data center, new folder, export system logs, assign licenses from here, tags and custom attributes, and add permission. Alarms can be set up here as well. So what we can do is we can just create suppose a new data center. We can create a folder now, and then under that we can create a data center, or we can just go for a new data center directly here as well. So if we go to new folder first, so suppose we can go for enter a name here, and so inside this, suppose it's all US data centers. We're gonna suppose it's a big company and we have multiple data centers. So all data centers of US we're gonna put here. I'm just gonna type US in, press OK. Then I'm going to right click here and go for the new folder again, and I'll put, suppose we have data centers in Canada as well, so we can go for Canada as well. So on the top you can create two folders here and just whatever categories you want to put there, however you want to organize that. But what our plan is that we're going to have one hypervisor. We'll just call it Toronto hypervisor, and the other one we can go for New York hypervisor. So in Canada, I'm going to right click here, and then in US as well. So let's right click and go for a new data center here. So it doesn't have to be two folders, it could be just one folder, maybe North America, that's it. And then you can create data center, or that's it, however you want to create that. New data center, I'm going to right click on the Canada, and we can go for Tor DC, Toronto data center, right? Okay, that's all. And it gets created here, a data center, because every feature is inside the data center. And if we go for right click here and go for new data center here, so it's NYDC, right? New York data center. That's okay, right? So now this is how you can create folder. Even under the Tor DC and NYDC, you can create further folders like downtown branch, or you have other wherever you have hypervisors, wherever you have Iscsi hypervisors, whichever branches, you can just divide according to that. So if I right click on the Tor DC here or NYDC, it's the same thing, that you can add hosts here. We have actually 3 of them. You can create a new cluster here, and cluster has all the advanced features. New folder, further new folders here for new host and cluster, network folder, storage folder, VM and template folder. Then distribute switch, that's the central big distribute switch. We're going to have a lab for that. And then new virtual machine directly from here. You can export our virtual machine, import our virtual machine. Storage, you can create new data stores from here now. Now remember that we left 2 LUNs there without a data store. So from here we're gonna create further data stores to those other remaining LUNs. And then default VM compatibility. This is when you have suppose upgraded from 7 to 7.5, or maybe an 8 version comes, so you want to check the compatibility and upgrade the virtual machines as well. Migrate VMs to another network, move to rename, then these are all the common features. Permissions of the data center level, alarms. So we have created a very basic structure here, and we're going to continue from here now in the next class up till here. So guys, my suggestion would be to not shut down the machine, but actually, right click and power and suspend guest, right? Now, well, the thing is that we still need to change the RAM of the other machine, but for now, if we suspend the guest, it freezes the configurations to where we were. Whatever window was open, it will be open there. So I'm going to suspend Win01 and Iscsi01. The other two are shut down anyway. So next class, we're going to unsuspend those machines, and we will see them exactly from here. And then we're going to go over and configure the whole environment. We have to add the hosts, and we have to create the two data stores, and then we're going to go ahead and do the rest of the labs as well. So okay, I'm just going to go to right click Win01 and suspend the machine, and see you next week. So I'm going to suspend the first machine, and it just takes a bit more space, but not a lot of space, but a bit more. So but we freeze the configuration, so we will, when we unsuspend, we see exactly those configurations again, especially 6i1, because inside it the Vcsa is right now started, and the rest other are already suspended, shut down, so we're good. Okay guys, so I'll upload the video. You can follow if you were not there before the next class, and see you next week.
Thanks a lot.
Amir,
Yep.
Yeah, Amir,
if I want to reinstall the
the Vcenter appliance, I just delete the EXSI host and reinstall a new EXSI host.
Host can
Fast.
stay. You can just remotely connect to E6i1, just like we were doing just till now, remote, and then
Yeah.
just go to the virtual machine, right click and delete the virtual machine, and simply deploy a new one. Remove the A record as well.
Okay, I got it.
Okay, I got it. Okay,
Okay, cool.
I'll figure it out.
And
Yeah,
otherwise,
I'll do
you
it.
can also put it on
Yeah.
WhatsApp, and I'll keep on telling you what to do.
Yeah, no problem.
Cool.
Thanks.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Take care. Bye.
Bye-bye.